Chapter 1, Leaving Phoenix. Life is just that, a life, and it means nothing if you don't make it worthwhile and live for something. But therein lies the question. What do you live it for? The car ride to the airport was quiet as we had the windows down. Trying to bask in the heat of the day, absorb as much of it as we could to help keep us warm in the perpetually cold and rainy town, I had agreed to exile ourselves to. Knowing the weather I was headed towards, I didn't have my usual shorts on but instead a set of loose-fitting jeans. Light enough to be comfortable in the winter weather here in Phoenix, but the locals looked at me weird for wearing them. I wasn't crazy enough to be wearing the parka I had stowed away in my carry-on luggage, so at the moment I was relaxed in my sleeveless thin white shirt. My sister was wearing the same, but her shirt had white lace and eyelets along the front in some random fashion I didn't get. I called her my sister, but we were closer to cousins by blood than true brother and sister. She must have felt my eyes on her as she turned to look at me. "It's okay, I'll be right next to you," she said with a sorrowful and worried look in her eyes. Anyone watching us would laugh at her gesture of comfort. Bella was all of 5 feet 4 in and 97 pounds soaking wet, so it was laughable to see her trying to comfort someone my size. At 17 years old I stood at 6 feet 4 in and looked like I weighed in the 260-pound range. My body was abnormally large and muscular for my age, to the point that I have had ladies in their 30s ask me to meet for drinks at a bar. I had anger issues and the best way for me to work those out was by pushing my body to exhaustion, and I did that with weight training. Combining that with an appetite that nearly drove my Aunt Renee to food stamps, you have a very good idea of what a gym body looks like. In my stronger moments, I had tried some combat sports like the local karate and some MMA classes also, but those all ended in disaster. Because of my anger issues, I was hesitant to spar with other people and they tended to take this as a sign of cowardness. Put my size and obvious reluctance to fight together, and what local bully wouldn't want to show off by dominating someone so large yet cowardly? The wind from the open window pushed my hair into my eyes, so I brushed it back with my hand in irritation. My hair was another thing I hated for its ability to draw attention. I was 17 years old and yet I had white hair. My eyebrows were dark, so everyone assumed I was trying to be a wannabe Eminem. No matter how much I tried, no dye would adhere to it, so it stayed white. The few times I had to go to court over my reactions to the bullies who thought I was an easy target, the judge didn't take well to my obviously dyed hair. Thankfully Bella had been smart enough to bring my medical records to the courtroom to prove that it was a genetic thing. The other lucky thing was that most of these bullies wanted their friends to record their brave act of pushing around someone so large, so in both cases that went before a judge, there was video proof of them starting it. The bad part was it also showed my brutal reaction in the end. I didn't just defend myself, I lost myself and nearly crippled them. Court-ordered anger management wasn't necessary because I was already attending them voluntarily. The group discussions about my anger and all the woo SAAs of deep breathing just didn't help me very much. I was drug out of my introspection by my aunt, Bella, Thomas. "You guys really don't have to do this if you don't want to. We were doing just fine as we were, weren't we?" As she talked, Phil pulled into the drop-off lane at the United section of the airport. Bella stared at her mother's childlike eyes, and I could see her muster up the lie. "I want to spend some time with Charlie, Mom. It's not much longer and I will start college and my own life. I don't think I will have much time to see him after that all starts. Besides, you should spend more time with Phil on the road now that you guys are married. He sounds really hopeful that the Twins AAA League wants to sign him." After Bella's answer, Renee turned to me. "What about you, Thomas? You could stay with us. Phil says you have the making of a great baseball player if you work at it a little." "Actually, Aunt Renee, I am really looking forward to the small town experience. Maybe if I'm in a less crowded area I will learn to relax a bit more, get a grip on my anger issues, and maybe work through my trauma." "Oh Thomas, if only you could see that your heart is so much stronger than these muscles you have built up like a wall around yourself." I smiled at her. "Thanks, Auntie. Then I took a deep breath and opened the door, stepping out, and after I closed it, I walked around to the back and helped Phil pull the luggage out of the trunk. Here you go, big guy, Phil said, handing me the last of the luggage. We both knew it would be a few moments before Bella could calm Renee down enough for her to escape the car. If you ever decide you want to get into sports, you be sure and let me know. You are any coach's dream. I smile at him. Thanks, Uncle Phil. My words surprised him for a moment and then he chuckled. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I guess I am your uncle now. Funny, you think I would feel different? If you would take the advice of a snot-nosed kid, Uncle Phil, if things don't pan out with the twins, I recommend you look into coaching. You have an inspirational way about you. Makes it easy for people to trust your words and work hard for you. Taking a deep breath, also, please cherish her. She went through so much for me that I can never make it up to her. The opening of both passenger doors interrupts our conversation as Renee and Bella make their appearance. Bella took charge of the situation, and we said our goodbyes yet again with promises to write emails and call every day. We all knew that it wouldn't happen as often as we wanted because life would move on for us all. I hugged and kissed Renee and shook Phil's hand, and then I proceeded to put on my JBL headphones. I had made my own playlist with a lot of slow instrumental music playing over the sounds of nature and fixed my eyes on Bella's back as I entered the busy airport with the headphones volume maxed out. In classical Bella fashion, she managed to trip over the rail for the sliding doors and almost fell on her face. I reached out for her shoulder and steadied her as a reflex. The move was so common that we really didn't even pay much attention to it. Bella had stopped thanking me for such things a while ago, so she just kept moving with a purpose towards the check-in counter to drop our luggage, minus our carry-on bags, that is. I kept my eyes on her back and tried not to look at the crowd of people. The crowds made me nervous and anxious. Once I started letting that affect me, I knew anger would follow, and being my kind of angry in an airport was a surefire way never to fly again. Like a horse being led around by its halter, I stayed within 2 feet of Bella and didn't look around. Bella was the one responsible for finding our gate, but first, there was the hurdle of the security check. Keeping my issues in mind, Bella had made our flight for the time with the least passengers, so there was as little of a crowd as possible. I filled the little grey tray with everything I had on me, including my headphones, and tried to concentrate on the ground as much as I could. Once I got through the personal metal detector, I was quick to get my headphones back on. With short glances around me, I found Bella putting her shoes back on and followed her to our gate. Everything went well on our flight to Seattle, and again our flight from Seattle to Port Angeles on a smaller plane was peaceful. I had relaxed more on the little plane with only 6 other passengers than at any point in the day so far. With a sigh, I noticed it was raining as we went to get off the plane, and both Bella and I dug out our parka with a resigned sigh. We both accepted that wet was going to be the new forecast for as long as we were in Forks, Washington. Chapter 2, First Day. Port Angeles Airport was so small it didn't have a dedicated arrival terminal, so people got to experience walking down the ladder on the runway and waiting for the luggage to be taken out of the belly of the plane. As Bella reached the bottom stairs, she was so busy looking at the man in a small-town police uniform that she missed the last step and practically fell into his arms. "It's good to see you, Bells," he said as he caught and automatically steadied her. "You haven't changed at all. How's Renee?" "Mom's good. It's nice to see you too, Dad." I had noticed Bella's slip-up, as I'm sure Charlie did as well, but he chose to ignore it. Knowing it wasn't Bella's fault that they didn't form the family bond when she was still young. Charlie and Renee went through a very messy divorce before Bella was even old enough to remember her father. Charlie wanted full custody of Bella when the divorce happened, but Renee had the courts on her side as the mother. Charlie had to admit that she wasn't neglectful towards Bella, and without that fault, the courts were always on the side of the mother in custody cases. Renee wasn't the only one at fault though. Charlie could have left his job as a police officer in Forks to move closer to Bella so he could see her more than 2 weeks a year, but he felt a responsibility towards the people of the town he grew up in. It was a simple story of the choices made when young. Looking at me, I can see Charlie's eyes widen. Wow, Thomas, do you ever plan to stop growing? You look like a beast, kid. You are going to be bigger than your dad before you hit 18 at this rate. I blush at his words. I don't know, Uncle Charlie. Not like I can control my height. I truly wasn't ashamed about my size, I just didn't think it mattered that much. Plenty of guys at my old gym were bigger than me. Little did I know how much I would stand out in a small town like Forks. Well, if you grow much more you won't fit in Bella's truck, I bought her. Bella took a surprised breath at this revelation. You didn't have to do that, Dad, I had some money saved up to get me a vehicle. We were interrupted by the arrival of our luggage. Though it didn't take long to find ours. The lack of heavy clothing in Phoenix limited our ability to prepare for the cold winter of Forks. We planned to go shopping not long after we came to Forks to fill out our wardrobe. As we loaded the suitcases in the back of Charlie's cruiser, Bella started asking about her new truck. She wasn't too pleased to hear it was an early 60s vehicle, but I could see Charlie's thought processes on the whole thing. As accident-prone as Bella was, it was just good math to put her behind the wheel of something that would demolish a new-age fire truck and maybe bend her fender in the process. It reminded me of an old episode of a show called Night Court where a female attorney had gotten in a wreck in the vehicle her dad had bought her and demolished the garbage truck that hit her, but all that happened to her vehicle was that it unstuck her gas gauge. We settled into a mildly uncomfortable silence as Charlie drove us to our new home. Unfortunately, nothing slowed traffic like a police car, so our silence was a long one. After a time, I broke the silence. Listen, Uncle Charlie, I can't thank you enough for making room for me. You really didn't. Charlie interrupted the speech I had been working on in my head for the past 20 minutes. Shut up, kid. You are family and that's all that matters. Don't ever think of yourself as a burden to me. This took me by surprise as I knew Charlie had just as much trouble expressing his true feelings as Bella did. If you can't rely on your family, then what use is this word anymore? Silence fell once again after Charlie's impassioned speech. I started looking out the car window more as I saw Bella do the same. The trees were close to the road, and everything was green and wet. The canopy of the forest made by the trees was intercepting the rain that fell, taking what it wanted of the water before letting the drops fall to the ground. The brown trunks were marred at intervals with moss growing. My first thought was that it looked foreign, but after looking for a time I found it strangely inviting and calm. Before I knew it, we pulled up to a little white house with a red truck in the driveway. As we got out, I went to the trunk for the luggage and Bella gravitated towards the truck, and I could tell that she liked it despite herself. She wasn't dumb enough to not realize that she was clumsy and more steel around her was a good thing, well for her anyway. I was happy as well. It meant we didn't have to get a ride to school in the police cruiser come Monday. I carried Bella's suitcase into the house as well as my own with no effort and put it in the room Charlie told me was hers. It looked rather childish in its furnishings, and I knew Bella wouldn't stand for that for long. Resigning myself to helping her make the changes she would want eventually, I went to the door opposite of hers and looked at what would be my sanctuary against the world for the foreseeable future. After we got ourselves settled in our individual rooms, both Bella and I went downstairs and started to rummage around the kitchen. The prices for food in the airports were too frightening to consider, and me being a heavy eater, my belly was beginning to act like my throat had been cut. Bella and I both went through the cupboards, and to our mutual horror we found them mostly empty, except for some spices that had expired 8+ years ago, and only the coffee was well stocked. We both cast Charlie an accusing stare as he blushed. I thought we would go to the lodge and eat tonight, and I would take you both shopping tomorrow. Bella laughed. Dinner at the lounge should be fine, but we will definitely need to stop for some food tonight or serial killer here will be unbearable tomorrow come morning. Seeing her point at me, I blushed. We can't all live off a single package of Pop-Tarts for the day like you bells. Besides, breakfast is the most important meal of the day until it's over, then the next one is the most important meal. Bella just shook her head. Whoever convinced you that second breakfast was a thing better hope I never find out who he is. I promise extreme violence on his head and shoulders if I find him. Charlie just watched us with a lost look on his face. I will drive, you just give me directions on what we want first. Well Dad, I want to spare you the pain of shopping with a hungry Thomas, so I suggest dinner first and once you see him eat you will understand. Unless the grocery store closes soon, if it does, we need to stop there first. Bella tells Charlie. We head towards the lounge for dinner, and everyone greets Charlie as a friend and looks at Bella and me as if we are juicy gossip. Bella orders a burger and Charlie orders a steak. I order both a steak and a burger, then the smell of fish enters my nose, and I can't help but ask for a side of the catfish I smell cooking. Charlie hears me order and says, "Slow down Thomas, we will hit the store after dinner, no need to order enough to take home for tomorrow." Bella chuckles, "Sorry Dad, but that is a normal dinner for him." I was surprised he didn't ask for more considering he hadn't eaten since we left home this morning. He will eat almost double what we eat each day. I turned a deaf ear to Bella's accurate explanation of my appetite. I take a deep breath and let it out as I suddenly realize that I don't feel smothered by people here. I still look for every exit as is my normal when I enter a room, but I don't feel the pressure of the other people in the room. I begin to think that I am safe and can relax a little. But then I feel my body tighten up and my nerves go tight. Being relaxed is not an option. Chapter 3, Morning Routine. People were screaming and crying all around me. I had blood covering my hands as I kneeled on the cold floor. Looking through my spread fingers I could see the white linoleum floor with more blood pooling from the body in front of me. The stench of urine hit my nose as I lost control of my bladder. A pair of black boots entered my sight line at a slow measured pace, the right foot stepped into the pool of blood that I had been focusing on. Tears began to flow as if the boots stepped on something precious to me. "Damn, you are one fat kid, what's the matter, can't run any further? Hee, did your parents leave you behind because you were slowing them down? Or is this your mommy's blood I'm standing in?" I looked up and saw a man wearing a mask with a skull pattern on it. My eyes shifted away from his face as he brought his rifle up to his shoulder. My time playing Call of Duty allowed me to identify it as an AR-15, my eyes focused on the dark hole of the barrel and waited for the flash that would tell me I was dead. One more dead white boy for the cause. As the man spoke, I closed my eyes and heard a loud bang. I jolted awake and stared around blankly as I didn't recognize my surroundings. My pulse thundered through my ears and sweat ran down my body. Taking some deep breaths, pushing down the panic, I began to focus and remember where I was. I looked at my phone and saw the time was just after 4 a.m. I pulled on a pair of shorts and made my way to the bathroom as quietly as I could. Closing the door, I turned the light on and hovered over the sink staring into the mirror there. My sky blue eyes were bloodshot from the tears they shed during my dream. My face was all sweaty, so I turned the faucet on and splashed the cold water on myself in hopes of clearing the last of the dream from my thoughts as much as removing the sweat and tear stains from my face. Looking around the bathroom I realized that I would be needing to share this one bathroom with Bella and Charlie. This is not going to be fun. Realizing I said that out loud I just shook my head and used the towel to dry my face and decided to start my day. Trying to be as quiet as I could in a strange house, I went to my room and put on my morning workout jumpsuit I had previously reserved for deep winter in Phoenix. Making my way downstairs I turned on the kitchen light and found the skillet in the bottom cupboard. Frowning at the dust that covered it I quickly washed it and placed it on the stove. As I opened the fridge to pull out the eggs, I saw Charlie stumble into the kitchen covering himself with a new-looking bathrobe. "You okay, Thomas? It's awful early in the morning." "Yeah, I'm okay Charlie, bad dreams." I decided to get up as my alarm would be going off in a half hour anyway. Charlie chuckled, "Took me a few minutes to remember I had you guys here, thought someone broke in." "Wait, you usually get up this early?" "Yeah, got to get my morning workout in or my day feels wasted. I will have to do a bare bones workout until I can find a gym. You want some eggs? I offer as I pull out my usual 3-egg pre-breakfast starter. Sure, I'll take one. Since I'm up this early, maybe I can get some fishing in. Should we wake Bella up for breakfast? Breaking open the eggs and starting them cooking, I just laugh at Charlie's suggestion. I'm not touching that door with a 10-foot pole this early in the morning. She is not what you would call a morning person. Besides, this isn't breakfast, this is my pre-workout meal. Charlie just smiled at my comment. If you are looking for a workout spot, I can offer the gym at the station. Not sure you will find another place open this early in town. I can let them know you will be there. That would be great, Charlie. I will find it during my morning run. I'll also scope out the best route to school while I'm at it. As I was cooking, I started to stretch out my thighs and calves. As soon as the eggs were done, I put them on plates and quickly washed the pan as I waited for the eggs to cool off enough to eat. Getting the eggs down quickly, I left the house and pulled up the hood against the drizzling rain and started to run. Charlie POV. After Thomas left, Charlie was sitting at the table still working on the egg in front of him. He stood up and started his coffee machine and thought to himself. It's been 3 years, and he is still having nightmares. He had heard Thomas calling out for his mother in his sleep. It had startled him awake after years of being in the house alone. Any noise did. Going through that at such a young age, it's no surprise he didn't like being in crowds. First his mom's boyfriend pushed him to the ground so he could escape, and then he and his mother were trampled by the crowd trying to flee the gunman. Finishing his egg, Charlie put the plate in the sink and walked to his room to get dressed for fishing. He paused at Bella's door and for a moment he thought about waking her to ask if she wanted to go with him. Thinking about Thomas's reaction to waking Bella, he wisely decided against it. Loading his fishing gear in his cruiser, Charlie planned to park just off the main entrance to the city and fish in a nearby stream. His cruiser parked there would slow traffic even if he wasn't in it. The locals knew it was the car doing all the work, but they would just laugh about the car working hard while their chief was chasing fish. You can't hide much of anything in a small town like Forks. Charlie was reaching for his cell phone to call Harry Clearwater to invite him to fish, and maybe this time he could talk him into sharing the recipe for the fish fry batter he made when it lit up with a work number. Hey Jeff, what's got you calling me so early? I was just about to go fishing. Hey Chief, we have gotten a couple of calls about a giant man running the streets with a hood on. Old Matilda called it in and said he was lurking around her property. I called the Cullens because their kid Emmett is the biggest guy in town, but they say it ain't him. Think maybe we got someone broke down and looking for help. Charlie sighed at himself for forgetting to tell Jeff that Thomas was going to show up to use the gym. No, Jeff. It's my nephew out exercising. He is one of those fitness buffs, and before I forget again, I told him he could use the gym there at the station, so he will be there after his run. Don't let his size fool you, he is a great kid so long as he doesn't get riled up. He will probably be a frequent visitor while he is here. Okay Chief, I'll let people know. You sure he is just a teenager? The way folks were talking, he could probably give some of those men at the Quileute reservation a run for their money. Going to cause quite the stir at school. You will see for yourself when he gets there. From what I hear, he takes his workouts very seriously. Talk to you later Jeff. Tell Ken when he takes over about Thomas and let him know I'll be fishing, so only call if it's important. Don't want the ringer on this phone scaring my fish away. POV shift. The rest of the day passed with the 3 new roommates learning to get along as they each did their own thing. Thomas found the gym at the police station to be barely passable and planned to use his own money to pick up some better plates for the bench, and the curl bar was bent so it needed to be replaced. Still, it was nice enough, and both officers Jeff and Ken seemed like nice guys. It was weird to hear that there were only 2 deputies and 1 chief for the town, but Ken said they could reach out to the park rangers if needed. Other than that, it was an hour's wait for someone from Port Angeles. You're a long way from Phoenix, Thomas, he spoke out loud as he ran a couple more miles after his evening workout. As he passed the hospital, he caught the scent of something sweet in the air. The smell caused his nose to crinkle, and he sneezed. For some reason, his instinct went into overdrive, and he became hyper-aware of his surroundings. He was on edge more than normal but didn't see anything near him. Thomas decided to go with his instinct and head back to Charlie's to get ready for his first day of school tomorrow. Chapter 4 Before School. As Thomas walked into the house, he could smell fish cooking and figured Charlie must have been successful at the stream today. Hanging up the soaking wet parka, Thomas walked into the kitchen to see how long until dinner was ready. Seeing Charlie at the table with a beer in his hand, I could tell he was racking his brain and trying to come up with something to talk to his daughter about. I decided to take pity on him and spoke to Bella. "How long until dinner, sis? Do I have time for a shower first? I just started the fish, so at least 30 minutes. I'm making you 6 and cha. Dad and I will have the other 3 from his trip today." "Great, I'll leave you alone then. I know how you hate being bugged when you're cooking." Saying the last bit for Charlie so he would stop trying to come up with an icebreaker to talk to Bella. He took the hint and followed me out of the kitchen. "I will look and see if there is a game on while we wait. Let me know if you need anything, Bella." "Dad, I will need to do a better shopping trip tomorrow after school." "No problem, there is a couple $100 in the peanut can on top of the fridge. I usually just shove some grocery shopping money in there each paycheck. If it isn't enough, just let me know and I'll give you more." Bella walked over to the fridge and found the can Charlie was talking about. Opening it up, she saw a large wad of random bills just stacked on top of each other. She couldn't stand to see the mess, so keeping an eye on the cooking fish, she took the bills out and counted them up. Dad, you realize there are almost $3,000 here?" Charlie turned towards Bella, who was standing in the kitchen doorway. Guess it adds up quick when you don't pay attention. That should last us a good long while." Shaking her head, Bella sighed in pity towards the lodge. Seems that her cooking at home just robbed them of one of their regular customers. As she finished preparing dinner, she started to plan out the week's dinners in her head, so she knew what to shop for. Charlie's belly was in for some new experiences. After we ate dinner, Charlie settled in for a couple hours of watching sports and Bella and I went to our respective rooms. I was going through my wardrobe by finally unpacking and hanging my shirts while putting the rest into the drawers of my dresser. I settled on a pair of blue jeans, my new hiking boots, and a t-shirt with a picture of the yin-yang symbol. It was a shirt Renee had gotten me to remind me nothing was all bad or all good. For a woman as ditzy as she could be, she sure had moments where she saw to the heart of things no matter how you tried to hide it. After deciding what I was going to wear, I sat down on my bed and opened my sketchbook, and just started to randomly draw a desert landscape from a memory in Phoenix. As I was working on a particularly stubborn cactus shadow, I heard a knock at my door. "Thomas, can I come in?" I heard Bella ask. "Sure, come on in." Bella opened the door wearing her pajamas. Her hair still wet and spreading the scent of strawberries all over my room from her favorite shampoo as she came in. Towel in hand as she was using it to wipe her hair dry. "What are you drawing?" Bella asked, seeing his sketch pad out. "Just a memory from the last run I took back in Phoenix." "What can I help you with?" "I just wanted to check on you, seeing as we will start school tomorrow." "I should be just fine, sis. I managed to get used to a class of 40 people and a student body of 700 in just our year alone. This whole school, all years included, is what, 350 people max? Figure 10 to 15 in each class. I just hope we have some classes together and you have to promise to eat with me." Bella looked at me intently as she said the last bit. "That's fine, but could you pick me up from the police station? I want to do my workout and the guys will let me use the shower there so I can get ready for school." "No problem, I will even bring you your breakfast when I do." "I would never be able to operate on the 5 hours of sleep you get each night, it's just unnatural." Staying up till 11 p.m. and getting up at 4:30 am. Wow Bells, you really do need school. I know you hate math but that's 5.5 hours not 5. She threw her towel at me. Jerk. I chuckled and tossed the towel back to her. See you in the morning sis. I said as she left my room, leaving me to my drawing. The next morning, I woke to my alarm instead of a nightmare, which was a promising start to the day. I put my school clothes into my backpack and went downstairs for my pre-workout meal. Leaving the house, I locked the door and put the key back where it belonged. I decided that instead of running with my backpack, I would put it in Charlie's cruiser and collect it when he arrived at work in a couple of hours. Beginning my run, I noticed that I could smell things around me more clearly and my hearing was much better than I was used to also. I chalked it up to being away from the big city and I knew you could hear better on a cold day also, so it didn't worry me much. I must also be getting used to the weather because a quarter through my run I had to take my jacket off or I felt like I would overheat. There was no rain at the moment, but the air still felt damp, like it was coming soon. After I got in my 7 miles, give or take a bit, I arrived at the police station and opened the door making sure to call out for Jeff, so I didn't startle the man. Morning Jeff, how was your night? Quiet, I hope. Hey kid, yeah it was quiet. Just a couple of drunks sleeping it off in the drunk tank. I am sure they will just love being woke up to the sound of you throwing those weights around. Back in my football days, I was just like you, wanting that Arnold Schwarzenegger body just to impress all the ladies. Got to say that I am glad my daughter is too young to be in your strike range kid or I'm sure she would fall for your looks. This conversation just took an embarrassing turn. Well, I better get to the workout before my body cools down Jeff, thanks for letting me in. I headed into the room that they had designated the gym and started to go through the stretching routine I had developed with a couple of trainers back in Phoenix. Starting the morning with 300 on the bench I started my reps and lost myself to the rhythm and counts in my head. As I was doing a ladder of sit ups with 250 pounds plates held to my chest, I saw Charlie come into the office carrying my backpack. Hey Thomas, I found this in my passenger seat and figured you put it there, so I brought it in. I also wanted to talk to you about some reading I had done about weightlifting and how it wasn't all that smart to do it alone in case you need help during a lift. Morning Charlie, yeah, I didn't want to sweat through the backpack during my run so I thought you bringing it would be best. As far as the lifting partner, it doesn't affect me much so long as I don't try breaking any records and there just isn't enough weight here for me to do that so no worries. On a day that I want to push my limits, I'll be sure to let you know so we can be safe. Who knows, maybe I can find a workout buddy at school. I stood up and put the weights away and decided to get ready for school after a cool down stretch. Thanks for looking out for me and going so far as to look up information on my hobby. It means a lot to me. I could tell that Charlie was instantly embarrassed and didn't take compliments too well. He is definitely Bella's dad. With a bit of a red face, Charlie started to walk out of the room but stopped at the door. Feel free to use one of the open lockers in the bathroom. You can leave your stuff there for when you come back tonight. I pretended not to see the awkwardness from Charlie and thanked him as I gathered my stuff to get ready for school. Bella should be here in a half hour or so. Chapter 5, School Schedules. After my shower I found myself looking into my sky blue eyes in the mirror. You got this man, no need to stress over it. The guy in the mirror talking seemed like he had everything under control. I finished getting dressed and swore as I noticed I had worn a hole in the heel of my sock on my right foot. Well, this is going to be an uncomfortable day, hope my hikers don't get too wet. From the front door, I was able to hear Bella's truck pull up. It sounded like someone got the timing wrong and the poor thing was idling very high. Something to fix later today if the rain stays away. I walked to the passenger side of the truck and climbed in. Once I had my seatbelt on, Bella handed me a Tupperware bowl and upon investigating, I found it full of banana and peanut butter pancakes. You are the greatest Bella, I said as I rolled a pancake up and started eating it. Bella cautiously pulled back out on the road and drove towards the school. I used my second rolled-up pancake to point out a shortcut path that kept her off the main road and went directly to the student parking lot. After running the town a few times already, I was getting to know my way around, while Bella was reading her old trashy love novels for the 7th time at home. Though considering she made my favorite breakfast, I didn't point this out to her. As if to honor my wisdom of not making fun of Bella and her old books, I was rewarded after taking out the last pancake, with a baggie of blueberries at the bottom of the bowl. Pointing to a parking spot close to the exit, I shared the wisdom of parking there with Bella. The walk may be longer, but just remember that the closer to the exit you park, the easier it is to get out of the parking lot. We both know that kids want to park as close to the entry as possible, and it's a traffic jam trying to get out. Remember Clint trying to be quick in his daddy's Porsche and getting into 3 fender benders in the first week of school, always had to park as close as he could. Bella smiled, yet and he cried for a month because he got it taken away and had to settle for a Mustang. We both look at each other and at the same time, what a douche. We laughed for a little while. Belle looked out the window. January of a new year, first day of a new school, we got this. Right, big bro? Reaching into my backpack, I grab my headphones and say, I'll let you know after school. Come on, let's go find the office and get our schedules. She got out and slammed the door shut. I hope we have at least a few classes together. Slinging my backpack over my shoulder, we shall see. The school was nothing like what we were used to. It looked like one fairly large building with a bunch of little ones spread out in a random pattern. Each small building had a number on it, so I wondered if each building was a class. No chain link to keep you in or guards with metal detectors. Weird. We decided to enter the double doors of the biggest building, and as soon as we did, Bella pointed out a door down the hallway that said main office. We went to it, and I held the door open for Bella to walk in and I followed. We walked into a decent-sized room that was cut in half by a large counter. A middle-aged woman looked up as we entered. Can I help you? She seemed taken aback by my size and didn't even see Bella until she started talking. I am Bella Swan, and this is Thomas Raizel. This is our first day. Bella used her full name. I can count on one hand the number of times I have heard her do that. The woman stood up and cautiously approached us, keeping a wary eye on me. She went to a precariously stacked pile of manila folders on the counter and pulled 2 slips of paper out, then handed both to Bella. You will need each teacher to sign this, and then bring it back after school. Here is a map for each of you. After pulling the maps out from under the counter and handing them over, she slowly backed away, not even discussing routes with us. We exited out into the hallway and Bella handed my schedule to me so we could compare. Despite Bella's wish, we only had one class together, and that was government. Next, looking at the provided map, we were able to tell that the big building we were in was the main office, gym, cafeteria, and the teachers' offices. Bella's first class was English and mine was art. Walking to the lockers we were assigned, which were also in this building, we looked them over and luckily Bella reminded me to bring a combination lock, so I didn't have to walk around with all my books in my bag. We agreed to meet up for lunch and went our separate ways. I wanted to get out of the hallway before the morning rush to the lockers before class that every school had. After all, in a tight place 20 people can be a crowd just as 100 people in an open field wasn't a crowd. I managed to get out of the main building before the first warning bell went off and walked towards where the map said Building 4 was. I was wondering what would pass as art at this school. I knew art was a very general term for some teachers. Some liked to dedicate it to drawing and painting, and others pushed sculpting and carving. My last teacher in Phoenix was trying to get permission to bring in a welder to show examples of modern metal art. I got to the correct building and opened the door to see only a few students in class so far and an elderly woman sitting behind a desk. I approached the desk and handed my class schedule to her. Ma'am, I am a new student and was asked to have each of my teachers sign this schedule. Why, thank you, Thomas. She said after checking my name on the paper. It looks like you will even up the number of students I have this year. Are you interested in art at all? Ms. Ross asked. I do enjoy drawing with both a pencil and some chalk. I don't really like the powder chalk though. My previous teacher had just started us on painting with chalk and a stiff brush, but my move obviously cut that short. Was your teacher using small sculptures or stone plates? Ms. Ross asked. Actually, the first half of the year we made sculptures ourselves, and the second half we were going to paint them with chalk and brushes before clear coating them to retemper the finished product in the kiln. He used the long Christmas break to set the sculptures we created. Sounds like you had a wonderful teacher, and his loss is my gain. I am able to see your interest just by the way you spoke of the project you were a part of. I hope I can challenge your creative side as much as he did. There is an empty seat there at the left corner desk. Your partner is a very passionate and high-spirited young lady by the name of Alice. I moved carefully to the indicated desk and put my class schedule in my bag, so I didn't lose it. The room was a bit small, and the ceiling was much closer to my head than I liked. If going by the desk count and the comments from Ms. Ross, I assumed there would only be 8 students in this class. Shortly before the last bell rang, the door opened and I saw a few more students file in, wiping sleep from their eyes still and yawning. After catching sight of me, they usually did a double take to see if they saw correctly. After all, a student my size was abnormal and sure to feed the rumor mill for days to come. At the last minute, the door opened again to reveal a very small girl. She stood no more than 4 feet 10 in, maybe 11 in, but no more than that. She was very petite and had short black hair cut in the pixie style. Her eyes were a dark brown, bordering on black, and she looked like she didn't sleep very well last night. Maybe she stayed up late working on something, I thought to myself. Combining all that with ivory white skin and a chiseled face that Hollywood must be dying to see, this just wasn't fair to all the other girls in the world. Alice dear, please take your seat so we can begin class. I assure you, your new table mate won't bite. Ms. Ross said. Chapter 6, First Art Class. Shock was the expression I would assign to her exquisite face right now. But even that didn't stop the little skip that I assumed was her customary pace as she approached our desk. Despite all these childlike attributes I had described her with, and the praising words I used to express her beauty, every instinct in my body was shouting danger. I didn't see you. She tilted her head slightly like a puppy seeing something that puzzled it, and her chirpy bird-like voice carried all kinds of confusion. I saw Bella, but not you. I wonder why. Not sure how to respond to her statement, I slowly reached out my hand. Hello, I am Thomas Raizel. If you saw Bella, I don't know why you didn't see me. She is far too small for me to hide behind. You must have seen her after we had parted ways, I guess. Anyway, from my understanding we will be art partners for the rest of the year. I talked like I was speaking to a child who I was afraid of frightening off due to my size. She gave me a smile that could melt the coldest heart, took my hand that was dwarfing her own to the point she could only grip 3 of my fingers, and shared a gentle handshake. My name is Alice Cullen. I am glad to have a partner, finally. Everyone in the classroom was staring at us as we introduced ourselves to each other. I noticed Alice's hand was very cold, like it was still trying to shake the cold from outside. As if guessing my thoughts when I looked at her hand, I have poor circulation in my hands, they are almost always cold. She removed her hand from mine, took off her backpack and hung it on the back of her chair. Then she sat down with a thoughtful look on her face. Thomas also sat down and finally registered the very sweet smell that came from his new desk mate. She smelled very much like cotton candy, pure sweet sugar. His attention was drawn to the front of the class by the teacher standing up. Class, I would first like to draw your attention to the back of the class and introduce a new student from Phoenix, Arizona. His name is Thomas and I hope you all welcome him and answer any questions he may have. I nodded my head and waved to everyone, secretly glad that Ms. Ross didn't make me stand and give my own introduction. We will take this first class of the week and lean into what he tells me he enjoys about art. I want you all to use just a pencil and white paper to draw your own partner in any style you wish. If you do not finish during class, you may take it home to finish, but be sure to bring it in tomorrow to receive credit." As she spoke, Ms. Ross laid 2 sheets of thick white artist paper on each desk. "Begin now." I looked again at Alice, and she was looking to the front of the class, but I could tell she wasn't focusing on anything in this room. She had an adorable little pout on her lips that gave me a great idea for my assigned art piece. As I started drawing, Alice seemed to come to herself and looked around. Turning to me, she whispered, "What was the assignment?" Her eyes went unfocused for a moment. "Oh, I see, everyone is turning in pictures of their table mates." She turned thoughtfully to me, and I turned my paper so she couldn't see what I was doing. She hummed to herself for a moment and then turned to the paper in front of her and quickly began drawing. Time faded away as it always did when I was drawing. My muscles loosened up and I wasn't wound so tight during this time. It was part of what pulled me to drawing. At any other time, I felt like a compressed spring ready to explode in any direction at any given time. As I put the finishing touches on my picture, I saw Alice stand up and take her drawing to Ms. Ross. Not long after her, I stood up and followed with my own finished piece. "Impeccable art as always, Miss Cullen. Care to tell me what it represents?" I looked at the picture on the table and saw she had cut the page in half, with the top half being almost all grey. The only exception was an all-white, vague outline of a person. But on the white bottom side, you could see a perfect drawing of me, down to the design on my t-shirt. I thought it resembled a shadow of the vague outline. I was impressed with the details, as well as the symbolism. The top half was what I expected of the day, just a grey passage of time. But the bottom is what I got, a new partner to help brighten my day. She said the last line with a smile. "Well, it's an A, and as usual, Alice, thank you. You can give your piece to Thomas if you would like," Ms. Ross said as she handed the drawing back to Alice. "And are you ready to turn yours in, Mr. Raizel?" "Yes, ma'am, I am," I said as I reached over Alice's head and kept the drawing turned away from her, handing it to Ms. Ross instead of putting it on the table. This caused Alice to puff out her cheeks and form a pout on her face that was just too adorable. "I wanna see," she said as she folded her arms. Ms. Ross looked at the picture and then looked at Alice and burst out laughing. She sat back in her chair and just continued laughing as little tears came out of the corners of her eyes. This caused the whole class to turn to us. As Ms. Ross started to recover herself, she placed the picture on the table so Alice could finally see it. At first glance, one would see a picture of Tinker Bell from the Peter Pan cartoon sitting on a cube of sugar with her hands across her chest and an adorable pout on her face. But a closer look showed it was Alice's face with her pixie-cut dark hair and not the classic Tinker Bell. It was a picture of Alice Cullen with fairy wings and Tinker Bell's outfit, pouting as if someone had teased her and she was about to get angry. Alice picked up the picture and looked at the drawing, and slowly a smile spread across her face. She started to do little jumps so fast I thought she was about to blur out of existence. She turned her blinding smile at me and said, "Can I have it? Please. 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 I really want it. Please." I chuckled at her reaction. "Sure thing, Alice, think of it as a gift for being my table mate in our first meeting." As I finished speaking, Alice reached over and hugged me. I didn't think anything of it until her arms touched my sides, and then I thought I was trapped between 2 cars. For a brief moment, it felt as if my ribs were about to shatter from the pressure. But before I could react, the pressure was gone, and Alice had let me go to turn and ask Ms. Ross for a tube to roll her new treasure in and protect it from the rain. This little lady was not normal, I thought to myself. I prided myself on paying attention to my surroundings and the people in them. It came from years of therapy and reading self-awareness books for the first 2 years after having my mother taken from me. My first thoughts were rather childish and ran towards little girl robots like in some anime I had watched and read. I just noted it and put it away for thought further down the road if it was warranted. Another childish thought had me check her waist for a possible tail. Laughing at myself, I turned after getting a tube to protect the drawing that Alice gave me and walked back to my desk. As I walked, I noticed everyone not concentrating on their drawings was looking at me strangely. As if I had done something wrong and they were waiting for me to get into trouble. After I sat down and secured my picture from Alice, I watched her skip to our table and put her new drawing into her backpack. "So, Thomas, what class do you have next?" "Next, I have government with Mr. Jefferson at Building 6. What about you?" I said after looking at my schedule. "I have math with Mr. Varner at Building 5, so we can walk that far together. If I'm not bothering you, that is. I could point out Building 6 once we are there." She seemed like she was waiting for me to tell her no, so when I nodded, she had another brilliant smile on her face. "That would be of great help, Alice. Thanks for taking pity on the new guy. I hope you have Bella in at least one of your classes. I get the feeling you two would get along great and maybe you can pull her out of the introverted shell she keeps herself in." "Oh, me and Bella will be great friends. I can't wait to meet her, but I don't think we have any classes together." In a low whisper, I barely made out her next sentence. "Maybe I can try and change that." "No, better stick with what I see." Focusing back on me, Alice says, "You ready to go? The bell will ring before we get to the door." I grabbed my bag and we walked to the coat hanger and grabbed our respective jackets, then said, "Lead the way, my diminutive guide." Chapter 7, Between Classes. Hey, no short jokes. Or I'll start with the tall and buff guy jokes. I don't know any, but I can find some online, I'm sure. What short jokes? I didn't once mention my surprise that you can reach the coat rack, and me opening the door only had a little to do with my worry that you couldn't get the proper leverage from your angle. I joked with her. Once we stepped out of the door, I saw a guy standing there. At first glance I thought it was a teen like me, but the way he stood spoke of experience and time you wouldn't normally see in someone in their late teens. I guessed him to be about 6 feet 1 in with a muscular build, but lean still, not bulky like me. Guessing from his appearance, I figured him to be the lightweight high-repetition type of guy at the gym. He had honey blonde hair that was slightly shaggy, falling just short of hitting his collar. His eyes were a brighter brown than the color of Alice's, but they still had a resemblance to each other's color-wise. His skin was pale like Alice's, but I could see raised spots all along his face and neck. The bumps and lines looked like scars he had received very young, and they had mostly faded away to the point that they were hardly visible to me. As soon as she saw him, Alice's face brightened like a light bulb and she jumped into his arms and shouted, "Jasper! You came to walk me to class. I love you." I watched Jasper's face as he looked at Alice in his arms, and you would think it had been years since they last saw each other. Part of me wondered if that was true. He looked at her with such warmth and devotion that I had no doubt that he would be with Alice so long as he lived. Strangely, I could almost feel the emotions I saw on his face. Then he looked at me and every muscle and tendon in my body tightened to the point it was painful. If Alice was danger, then my instincts told me that this man was death incarnate. I truly felt as though I was under the gaze of a battle-seasoned lion. One who was in the prime of his youth and ready to accept any challenge that came his way. The fear I felt was primal, my fight-or-flight response was fully engaged, and my mind was just trying to decide what direction gave me the best chance to get away. Suddenly, my anger kicked in and started to overwhelm me. I could feel the rage bubbling just below the surface as I tried to hold it back by reflex. I knew it was a bad thing to release my anger, but I just couldn't stop myself. With the last bit of my will starting to burn in the flames of my anger, I mentally apologized to Bella and Charlie for the trouble I was about to cause them. Unexpectedly, I felt like a cool winter breeze ran through my body and the anger started to recede under its gentle chill. I let out the breath I had been holding and took another deep one, trying to stabilize my emotions. My muscles relaxing caused me to stagger and I tried to reach out for the wall of the building to stabilize myself. Before my hand met the wall, I felt Alice's cold hands take my other arm. "Are you okay, Thomas?" Ashamed of my anger and loss of control, and just as importantly, not wanting to scare the first friend I had made at school, I said, "I am good, Alice." I managed to get out between deep breaths. I just lost myself there for a second, must have been from coming out of the warm room and into the cold. I haven't gotten used to the temperature extremes yet. Sorry if I scared you. Let's get you out from in front of that there door, partner. The next person out is liable to wrap the back of your head with it. A thick southern accent spoke up. I knew it had to be Jasper even without turning to look. He had a very calm voice that made you react to the tone faster than the words spoken. Automatically it seemed my body moved away from the door, Alice still holding onto my arm to steady me in case I needed it. "Thank you for the warning, my name is Thomas Raizel. I am very sorry if I came off as rude earlier, I am not sure why my body froze up like that." I told a bald-faced lie, but it was better than telling him that he scared me to the point I was going to fight like a cornered honey badger. Before he could respond, the door opened and I heard someone say, "He is here, it's Jasper." "Where is the new guy?" A face peeked out around the door, saw me, and noticed my troubled expression. Are you okay? Do you need me to get the teacher?" "I am fine, no need to get Ms. Ross. I just got a little dizzy coming outside is all." The looks the students, yes, there were about 4 at the door now, gave Jasper and I were doubtful, to say the least. Ignoring the looks being sent his way, Jasper reached out his hand to me. "It's good to meet you, Thomas. Like my little hummingbird here said, my name is Jasper, Jasper Hale." "Nice to meet you, Jasper, sorry again for acting this way. Phoenix weather is just so different than here in Forks." I took his hand and used the temperature excuse again for the students watching. I released his hand as soon as would be considered polite and regained my balance. "You wanted to show me my next class, Alice?" Indicating we should get moving. "Yeah, follow me and Jasper, it's right this way." Alice gave Jasper an approving look for some reason, and the 3 of us started towards a building in the distance. "So, what brings you to Forks, Thomas?" Jasper asked me. "Family. Chief Swan is my uncle, and my sister Bella is his daughter. We decided to move here so her mother could travel with her new husband." "Well, that don't hardly add up unless we're in Arkansas. How can he be both your uncle and your sister's father?" Jasper asked with a chuckle. Alice laughed also. Knowing this would be their reaction to the way I stated the relationship, I hoped the amusement would help them forget the awkwardness from our initial meeting. "Well, my mother was Bella's mother's sister, and when mine passed away, she and Bella took me in. Her name is Renee, and she is the ex-wife of Charlie Swan. Over the years I just got into the habit of calling Bella my sister, so it's hard to think of her any other way. What about you two? The connection between you guys is like destined lovers or something from stories and anime. I have never seen 2 people so meant for each other." I meant every word of what I said. "My twin sister Rosalie and I share in your loss of our mother and moving to live with our aunt. My Aunt Esme can't conceive children, so she and her husband Carlisle adopted a whole passel of kids. Alice here was one of the ones adopted, and like you said, it was fate from the start between us. Isn't that right, my hummingbird?" Jasper looked down at Alice, who was happily skipping alongside them. "I just had to wait until you came along to complete my world," Alice responded. As we talked, we got to a little building with a large number 5 on the side of it. And I could see the next building just a short way away had a number 6 on it. "Well, I don't want to interrupt the time you can be used to whisper sweet nothings to each other and make all of us single guys and girls jealous enough to turn green. Thank you for showing me the way, and I hope you forgive me for being all weird after class. See you two around." I waved as I headed to the least favorite class on my schedule. Getting to class in plenty of time, I entered and walked directly to the desk as I rummaged through my backpack for the schedule all my teachers needed to sign. "Mr. Jefferson, sir, I am a new student and I have my schedule here for you to sign." Leave it here on my desk and grab a book from that cupboard for yourself. You can collect the schedule at the end of class. Yes sir, I will also grab a book for my sister who will be starting class this hour as well. Just as I spoke, the door opened, and Bella came stumbling in. I smiled at her and went to the cupboard to get us each a book and made it back to the teacher's desk just in time to hear him tell her to get her signed schedule after class. I handed her the book I selected for her and asked the teacher, is there assigned seating or do you know what seats are usually open? Yes, the two in the back left are for you. If there are issues later on, I will move you as needed. Bella looked at me like she wanted to say something as we walked back to our seats, and just as soon as I sat down Bella asked me, what's this I heard about some senior punching you for talking to his girlfriend? Chapter 8, Rumors. Alice and Jasper POV. As soon as Thomas left, Alice and Jasper moved away from the entrance door to Building 5 and started talking rapidly and low so they couldn't be overheard. That was a very angry young man, darlin', Jasper said while he reached his hand out to grip Alice's left hand. I can't see him, Jasper. He has never been in any of my visions. I knew that Chief Swan's daughter was coming, but how could something like him slip through my visions? I can't wait to show you what he drew, but I won't take it out and let it get ruined in the rain. Wait, you mean to tell me you have been having visions of this Bella Swan everyone is talking about? Why didn't you say anything? The visions are changing too fast right now, someone has to make a decision, I think. But if it's the right decision then she will affect us all. Well, she will be my best friend too. Unless Thomas turns out to be my best friend. She put a finger of her right to her chin. If he is not in my visions, does he affect them? So much I don't know about my abilities, yet we rely on them so heavily. You're spinning me in a web of confusion here, darlin'. What did you feel when you saw him? He got all tense like he recognized you or was afraid of you. His emotions are like a bonfire of anger. I could feel him through the door as I was waiting for you. When he came out with you, I saw him looking me over and sizing me up the way you do when you meet someone for the first time. But well, most of my attention was on you, love. Once I turned to look at him, I felt a great weariness, like he was ready to fight or run. The beginnings of fear, and then suddenly it was like all those emotions were fuel for his rage. Before that point, he had no hostility towards me, but the anger started to overwhelm him. I had no doubt that he would attack me with everything he had at that point, so I had to use my ability to calm him down. It could have been me not paying attention, but I think he also saw my scars. His eyes focused on my face and neck intensely for a longer time than most humans. Alice still had her finger on her chin. Humans can't see your scars without a strong light illuminating them. He is getting more and more mysterious. I hope this doesn't mean we have to move again, I really like it here. Your safety is my priority, love. Our living arrangements can change, but you know I won't stand for you to be in danger. Alice smiled at him. You're sweet, dear, but you know I will be safe, even if it's just to keep you from fighting. It's so exciting, Bella's first day here and so much is happening. Well, you best get yourself to class. I will see you at lunch, then later you can tell me about these visions you have been having. Alice jumped up and gave Jasper a quick kiss and turned for the door. Once she was inside, Jasper headed off for his class and figured he would make it just in time. Holding his breath as much as he could to reduce the smell of the oh-so-sweet human blood that constantly tempted him, Jasper caught his name being whispered from time to time. I heard he was being pushed up against the wall by Jasper, just for talking to that little freak Alice. But I heard the new guy was huge, too big to be our age. I bet he got held back a couple of years. I wonder if they will fight after school. Jasper inwardly groaned. He and his family tried to keep the attention on them to a minimum, and this was likely to keep the spotlight on them for a couple of weeks at least. Jasper sighed and wondered what everyone would say at lunch. If the new guy likes the way Alice looks, just wait until he gets a look at Rosalie. I mean, all the Cullens are gorgeous, but Rosalie is beauty incarnate. Ha, he will take one look at Emmett and duck his head if he isn't able to take even Jasper on. Jasper stopped paying attention at this point and just made his way to class, making his face as stoic as possible and tuning out all the chatter. He hoped none of his siblings had heard of this rumor. Scene shift back to Thomas. Once the boring government class was over, I had to yet again convince Bella that I had not in fact gotten into a fight on my first day. I had not in fact been trying to steal a senior's girlfriend. And finally, we had not in fact pledged to have a fight to the death after school over her. How she got these rumors in just the 15-minute break between classes was a wonder. I had to do all this before we even made it up to get our signed schedules, which we had to remind Mr. Jefferson that he had taken from us. Did all this really happen in just the first 2 classes of the day? After leaving Bella to go to her trigonometry class, I made my way to biology with Mr. Banner. I couldn't help but notice that many of the people I passed were looking at me and whispering to each other, and wondered just how far this stupid rumor spread in such a short time. This continued all the way to Building 2, which I had to find by relying on the map given to me in the morning. Upon entering the classroom, I walked directly to the front of the office and introduced myself to the teacher. After he signed my schedule, he directed me to the books for the class. I am afraid that you will make this class uneven in numbers, so you will do a majority of the work on your own. If you struggle, then I can consider placing you with some of my top students as a 3-person team. That's okay, Mr. Banner, my biology is strong, so I shouldn't struggle too much. If I do, I will be sure and let you know. It may have been my imagination, but this teacher came off as very condescending and stuck up. Good thing I held back on asking him if his first name was Bruce. I probably wouldn't like him when he is angry. The class proceeded normally, but I could tell that it was going to be a waste of time for me and Bella. We were both in the accelerated class in Phoenix school system, and what we are learning in this class is about 2 years old to me. Good thing I kept all my past assignments on a thumb drive so I could just reuse them. Poor Bella, being the old lady type, she handwrote all hers, and I know she didn't bring them with her. That should be good information to give her a hard time on. School had always come easy to me, even before my mother died. I was quite the fat nerd back then. This school was shaping up to be even easier than I was used to. Wonder if I can test out and graduate early. I was trying to act oblivious to all the staring I was getting and just hoped that it would calm down in time. Finally, the bell rang, releasing me from the tiny classroom. I decided to take all of the 15 minutes I was allowed between classes after today. I needed to be early enough to get the teacher's signature today. My final class before lunch, Mr. Varner, and calculus/trigonometry, all the way back to where I separated from Alice and Jasper. If memory serves, I should pass Bella, as she has just the trigonometry portion this last hour. She never did like math much. Making my way, I did not see Bella. I wondered if her 4th period class took her in a different direction than the one I was coming from. Mr. Varner proved to be another unpleasant man who forced me to stand at the front of the class and introduce myself to the class like I was a performing monkey. He is definitely going to get bashed in the Swan home if he made Bella stand up here. She hates being forced into the spotlight, though Renee did say that she opened up a good bit just by interacting with me. After class, I went to my locker to drop off the books I had accumulated and then made my way to lunch. Chapter 9, Lunch. Walking down the hall, I see Bella looking around at the entrance of the cafeteria as she stood with another girl. This girl was slightly shorter than Bella and had very frizzy dark hair. Once Bella caught sight of me, let's face it, I kind of stood out, so it wasn't hard. She waved as if I hadn't seen her already. Hey Thomas, how's your day going so far? It's good, looks like I will be able to reuse a lot of my essays from Phoenix here. I smiled, knowing this would irritate her. Who is this? I pointed to the girl beside her. Before Bella could say anything, I'm Lauren, we have Spanish together and I invited her to sit with my group at our table. But she wanted to wait for you, and I was fine with that. She spoke very quickly and really emphasized the I in her introduction. I know it's shallow, but I already placed her in the self-centered category. but I wasn't above letting her work her way out of that group in my head. It depended on her at this point. "Hello Lauren, I'm Thomas." I introduced myself. "Well, let's get in there and see what passes as food in this school." I hope they ignored that hag Michelle Obama's sorry attempt at improving school lunches. How are they going to listen to a lady that has never let her daughters eat in a true school cafeteria, much less eaten in one herself? Hee hee, you're so funny, Thomas. Lauren had a high-pitched laugh that just grated on my nerves. But if she came with Bella, I would stay strong. For now. I started looking around for the exits as soon as I walked in and gauged where the heaviest crowds would be, a normal habit of mine. I spotted a table in the back that was completely empty and all the kids in the area avoided it. That's a perfect table for me, I decided, close to the exit and out of the way. I could put my back to the wall and watch everyone that entered or came near me. Wondering why no one else was interested in that table, I turned my attention to the food being served by the lunch ladies. Lauren's eyes got bigger and bigger as she saw the amount of food I was collecting on my tray. After paying for it, I waited for Lauren and Bella to finish paying for their lunch. Lauren points to a table that is in the middle of the room. "It's over there, those are my friends. They will be dying to talk to you too." I get antsy right away, but I was also trying to cope with my issues, so I was willing to try for today. Once we sat down, Lauren did some introductions. I started eating but kept my eyes towards whoever was talking and used their facial expressions as my cue to nod or shake my head to the comments I just didn't really want to listen. I glance over at Bella and see her in the typical defensive posture she has when around a lot of people. Her shoulders were hunched and eyes down, with her making quick glances through her hair at whoever was talking, but then looking away as if not wanting to be caught staring. She was definitely the one-on-one type of social girl, and my trust issues with people often came off as stuck up. It was usually the third or fourth interaction with people that they started to realize that I didn't care about what they were saying unless it was truly interesting to me. We made a true socially awkward pair. Out of nowhere, a strong burst of a sweet sugary smell overpowered my nose. The smell made me almost gag on the spoonful of chili mac I was eating. It threw my taste buds off, smelling sweet but eating spicy. Looking around, the first thing I noticed was that everyone kind of froze for a second, like a herd of sheep with a wolf smell in the air. No one looked right away, but everyone was aware that danger had approached, and they didn't want to draw attention to themselves, so they resumed their normal routine. My senses told me exactly where the feeling of danger was coming from, and I tensed up more than was normal for me. I really didn't like the feeling because I knew that if you are too tense, then it locks your movements down and makes them jerky and slow. I started to analyze what I was seeing so I could get a handle on my nerves. First up was a true vision of beauty. No dummy, analyze the threat first, I told myself. Hovering over the woman I was trying to not stare at, was a figure that was just slightly taller than me, and his build was surprisingly bigger than mine as well. With short dark curly hair and a chubby boyish face with dimples any grandmother or aunt would want to squish between their fingers. The words devoted just began to describe the way he looked at the gorgeous being in front of him. I felt that if I built an altar and put a picture of this woman on it, then he would be the first to kneel before it, when the real thing wasn't around, that is. Now on to the woman. Anyone calling her a girl would have to be blind. She stands 5 feet 9 in with long wavy blonde hair that fell past her shoulders to the middle of her back. She had a statuesque figure that would put any model to shame, even after they had been brushed up with Photoshop. She is astoundingly gorgeous. Her eyes and skin were the same color as Alice's, to the point you had to wonder if they were natural or if their foster parents had a special skincare product. She moved like a queen entering her throne room, demanding everyone's adoration, and deeming it barely worthy of her acceptance. With a hint of "do better next time you look at me," coming across with the slight smirk on her lips. This woman knew she was utterly without comparison, the top beauty in the room, and made sure every girl around her knew they would never be more than second place with her in the room. With these two leading the group, it was hard to look past them. But once I did, I noticed the familiar figures of Jasper and Alice. Moving with the normal skip in her step, Alice looked around, and when she saw me, she gave me a little wave which I returned. She also looked at Bella, and I could see an almost longing look in her eyes, as if seeing a best friend after a long separation. Jasper had a look that was comparable to mine right now. His body tense as if he was trying to control himself, and a look on his face like something was painful. "Did that freak just wave at us?" Lauren said, looking around the table for support to her words. When she noticed me returning the wave, she had a dumbfounded look on her face and just said, "Oh. So, is it true that Jasper wants to fight you for talking to his girlfriend?" A tall black kid asked me. I remembered his name was Tyler, I think. Not at all, he was very pleasant when Alice introduced me to him. I have art with her, and we are partners. Everyone looked at me suspiciously, but no one commented. Then I heard Bella ask, "Who are they?" When I looked at her, I saw her eyes glued on one of the two figures behind Jasper and Alice. He was shorter than all the other men in his family, that I had seen, standing around 6 feet 1 inch. To me, he looked skinny, but the way he moved spoke of hidden strength and speed. He had short, messy hair that was a shade between brown and red. I thought copper was as close to a color as I could use to describe it. A girl at the table with long mousy blonde hair and looking like a strong athletic type, with her being taller than most girls at the table. "Jessica, I believe was her name," answered Bella. "Those are the Cullens," she said, like a person getting ready to share some juicy gossip. As if she had yelled out loud to get his attention, I saw the one Bella was looking at turn his head towards the table we sat at. Looking him over again, I had to go with my earlier thought. The Cullens definitely have a skincare product that was unavailable to the rest of the world. No other way they could all have the same pale ivory, almost marble-like skin tone. The guy looked at Jessica as if to ask why she called for him, but said nothing and turned his eyes towards Bella. After a second or two his eyes had a puzzled look and his face creased slightly into a frown for just a brief second before he was nudged from behind. "Don't just stand there, stupid. Move!" A melodious yet irritated voice said from behind him. Chapter 10, Enter the Cullens PT1. When Bella noticed the boy looking at her, she dropped her eyes quickly in embarrassment. Jessica giggled and continued her speech in a low tone so only those at the table could hear her. "The big one with the girl in the lead are Emmett and Rosalie, the little one behind them is Alice, and the one that looks like he is constantly in pain is Jasper. They are both couples." She said the last with a tone of condemnation and shock I didn't understand. "They live together. Like brothers and sister, all adopted by Dr. Cullen and his wife." She stared at us as if waiting for us to be repulsed by what she said. "Well, they aren't blood related and have lived together for years, so no surprises down the relationship road. I would say they have a better chance of making it work than most people these days," I said, letting Bella take her time absorbing the information and sparing her from having to respond. And the other two?" Bella asked, with a skip in her voice. When I looked up again, I saw them all seated at the table I noticed earlier, the one I wanted to sit at. This must be their usual table, and that would be the reason no one else dared to take it. My attention was caught by the girl sitting with her body mostly facing me. She must be right at or under 6 feet tall, it was hard to tell as she was seated now. Her facial features were near perfect, with the minute blemish of her lower lip being slightly too big compared to her upper. It gave her a perpetual pout. Her high cheekbones and sharp chin gave her a remarkable and fierce look. Thomas's first impression was that he didn't want her to get mad at him. Her hair was almost the same as the guy Bella couldn't take her eyes off, but just a shade brighter. A more polished copper, I thought to myself. If I were to compare them to gods, I would say Rosalie was Aphrodite and this bronze-haired beauty whose name I didn't know would be Athena, the goddess of battle and wisdom. Oh, that's Edward and Edythe. They are twins, so at least they aren't together. Not that it matters, as they won't even look at anyone in this small town. They are two above us townies," Jessica said with venom in her voice. I wondered how many times she got turned down before she went from infatuation to hate. Then I wondered if it was just Edward she had been infatuated with, not that I would judge. But damn, that's a hot thought. That I needed to shake out of my head right now. Damn pervert, I told myself. Who are the Cullens? I don't remember hearing about them before. Bella asked. Jessica took a deep breath. The Cullens are new to town, only been here for a couple of years. Dr. Cullen is in his late 20s or early 30s I think, and he is the doctor at the clinic/hospital here. His wife is Edythe Cullen, she is a stay-at-home wife who takes care of all the kids I assume. After all, it's a big family to feed and clean up after. That is super cool of them to be willing to adopt older kids at such a young age. It couldn't have been easy with Dr. Cullen going through school or doing his time as an attendee. If you work out the ages, it's a lot of responsibility at a very young age. I am glad that as teens, they got someone so good as guardians. Being an orphan is no easy thing, I said, making my stance clear. Jessica seemed to pull back and glance around, looking at her friends. I looked back at the table to see Edward staring at Bella with a look of slight frustration on his face, and then he turned his eyes to me. Suddenly he flinched and I saw his teeth clench as he broke eye contact, turning away from me and bringing his hands up to his head. A muffled groan of pain made it to my ears, and if I heard it from here then at the table it must have been very loud. Suddenly everyone at the Cullen table tensed up and Emmett half rose from his seat. Edward quickly motioned with his hands and started talking to everyone there. Emmett sat back down, and everyone else started to relax. I could see Alice lean in and speak for a few moments, with Jasper adding in a word here and there. Edythe put her hand on Edward's shoulder and glared at me for a moment. Their reaction had me back on edge, and I had already moved one of my legs from under the table, ready to spring into whatever action I found necessary. With everyone at my table now staring at me, I had to complete the motion of standing like it was what I intended to do from the beginning. I was mad that their reaction got to me so much that I just glared right back at Edythe as if to say, "What's your problem?" Here I was just thinking that her being mad at me would be a bad thing. At least I had managed to finish my lunch, I thought. I turned back to the table I had been sharing and grabbed my backpack with my free hand. "Well everyone, I am going to explore my new school a bit before lunch ends. Thanks for letting me sit with you. See you after school, sis. I will meet you at the main office. I can show you around." Both Jessica and Lauren said it at the same time, and then they stared daggers at each other. "No thank you, ladies, I will be moving fast to help settle my lunch before gym class. See you all around." I quickly left before anyone could say more or point out the stupidity of my comment. I separated my trash and put my tray on a pile and then moved out the door, glancing around. I figured the direction didn't matter, so I just moved. Time/POV shift Edythe. I think my brother is right, high school is purgatory. Being condemned to repeat it every 10 to 15 years or so should definitely count towards atoning for any sins we have committed. Not that I believed in God, well, at least not in the one people preached about. I had always lived my life in the belief that so long as my actions didn't hurt the innocent, and I had a clear conscience, then me and whoever was taking notes on my life's actions could talk it over. If they felt I did wrong, and I felt I did right, then we could agree to disagree and go from there. In that unlikely event, I will point out my days that seemed more impossibly monotonous than the last and say, "Time served, right?" I stared at the floor as we waited for the line at the lunch counter to die down so Jasper wouldn't feel too crowded. Him being the newest vegetarian of the group, combined with his years of a grab-and-drink-as-you-please diet, made him touchy around lunchtime. He was good at interacting in one-on-one, but in a group, the emotions all combined along with his power, made his control spotty at best. As much as he could control people's emotions, they also controlled him at times. We have found that when he is fighting off the emotions, then he can lose control of the feeding instinct. Edward also suffered in crowds like you find in lunchrooms. All those thoughts hitting him at once and the effort he has to go through to narrow them down to hear specifics or even just shut them all out is beyond me. Having to take note of what questions were asked out loud and what was just in another person's mind would drive me insane. That and having to listen to every boy's fantasy about me would plant me firmly in a monastery where all the men have taken vows of celibacy, but what I know of men, even that wouldn't work. I am sure today's thoughts are all the same, in varying shades of the sheriff's daughter with the flighty ex-wife has returned to Forks at last. Bella Swan, I heard was her name, and her brother/cousin/boyfriend, no one can decide yet. Thomas Raizel. Thomas, I have overheard was a monster in size comparable to Emmett, and the rumors running around say that he has already had a run-in with Jasper over Alice. I laughed at that thought, the idea anyone could separate those two was laughable. I will have to ask Alice about it later tonight. She is concentrating on Jasper at the moment, so it's best not to bother her with the little stuff. Chapter 11, Enter the Cullens PT2. I will put a couple of images here that come close in my head to look like the characters. The two Thomas pics are near perfect minus the eye color, and the two I chose for Edythe have the wrong skin tone and her hair is a little closer to brown than red. But it can give you a general idea of them as I see them. If you find a pic that is closer in description or you like it better, feel free to post it and I'll give my thoughts. Remember to give me a few min to get them up after I post the story. The lunch line finally died down enough for Jasper to be a little more comfortable, so we proceeded to head in and grab our props for the day. Rosalie first, who slowed the process down by catching her reflection in the glass separating the students from the hot pans. She had to stop and adjust her hair and put just enough behind her ear to show off the earrings Emmett had gotten her recently. Naturally, Emmett was right beside her, inflating her ego in the way only he could. Alice followed, picking her food by color, and ignoring the looks from the lunch staff, then doing a little pirouette before approaching the register. Jasper just put his plate out and let them do as they pleased. Trying to keep his face emotionless, he stayed with Alice, minus the pirouette. Edward, with his perpetually bored and martyred look on his face, just took things at random. I tried to copy the plate of a girl I saw at the closest table, so I didn't stand out too much. As I walked to the register, I saw Alice waving at someone, and it drew my attention, so after I paid for my food, I looked at the table Alice had waved at. He was a giant sitting among children, his white hair was nearly the color of a vampire's skin. It was cut in a high and tight style along the sides, with the front doing a little swirl that I could imagine running my fingers through. His eyes were a clear sky blue that reminded me of the weather. We could never go out in among humans, or we would expose ourselves instantly. He had a tense, weary look about him, and I could see him running his eyes over my whole coven, taking notes and filing them away in his mind. He had high cheekbones and slightly sunken cheeks that flowed into a strong-looking chin. His thin lips looked even thinner as his mouth was pulled into a frown as he tried to take in all the information his eyes could steal. I wonder if I had looked a little sooner would I have seen a smile as he waved back to Alice? After all, who would not see her and smile? If I had a beating heart, it would be pounding in my chest right now, pushing blood and endorphins to all sorts of interesting places in my body. His outfit was so casual it looked like it was designer clothing. The shirt design especially stood out, with the yin-yang symbol lining up perfectly with his pecs. She took joy in noticing that the little bit of opposite color in the yin-yang was directly over his nipples. Oh, if I was 100 years younger! The things I would do to him! I could finally use all that information the Denali Coven had forced me to listen to. Tanya especially, that little succubus. That thought finally brought her back to reality. Shut up, you old hag, he is out of your reach and better off without you. Now get your shit together and move. Shaking her head as if to clear it from her split-second fantasy that she didn't want to admit hurt her terribly. She noticed Edward was just standing in front of her and blocking her path of retreat from those glorious eyes that had yet to turn her way. She wanted to move before that happened, and she got caught in them. Don't just stand there, stupid! I nudged him with my hand for good measure. I then focused my eyes on the seat that was normally mine and was secretly happy it was turned to mostly face the middle of the cafeteria. After I sat down, I took a deep breath and tried to organize my thoughts. Naturally, my stupid brother stopped that from happening. Jessica Stanley is giving the new Swan girl all the dirty laundry on the Cullen clan. He murmured to the table too low for anyone listening in on the table's conversation. Emmett chuckled. I hope she is making it good. Rather unimaginative, actually. Just the barest hints of a scandal. Not an ounce of horror. Very disappointing. I spoke up, that's good, it means we are blending well. Emmett continued, what about the new girl? Is she disappointed in the gossip as well? What about the big guy next to her, he looks strong. For a human anyway. Edward paused for a moment, to the unknowing it looked like he was thinking deeply about something. A frown overcame his face, and he turned toward the table the new kids were at. I am not getting anything. I can't hear her. I focus on my ears and listen and easily pick up a voice that sounds deep and smooth as honey. I hear him defending and complimenting Carlisle's and Esme's choice to adopt us. Guess that story is still holding. I kept to myself his comment about being orphaned, he said it weird. Guess I have my research project for tonight. Sounds like he put the small town rumor monger in her place with a few words. I chuckled. As if hearing my words, I noticed him look over at our table and suddenly Edward tensed and turned to face us, grabbing his head in obvious pain. We all reacted like Edward had just been attacked and Emmett started to rise from his seat when Edward started waving us back down. Don't draw attention, sit back down, and relax. It's okay, somehow, he defended himself from my ability. As soon as I stopped trying to read his thoughts the pain stopped. We are not in any danger, my visions show us all leaving the cafeteria safely. So long as we stay calm. Alice said. Edward took several deep breaths, and I reached out to support and comfort him by placing my hand on his shoulder. I looked over at the table with a questioning look only to meet his angry gaze. I felt like his eyes would burn right through me and leave me wounded. He got up from his table and left the cafeteria, but the whole time he was defensive towards us and our table. What happened, Edward? I asked him intently. That look of anger he hit me with made me feel pain. Is that what he did to Edward? My thoughts were again interrupted by Edward. I was trying to read the girl's mind, but I couldn't hear anything. I wondered if my powers stopped working, but I could hear Jessica just fine. So, I tried to look into the guy's mind and suddenly it felt like I was on fire. Comparable to when Carlisle turned me, level of pain. It stopped when I stopped trying to read him, but it took a couple of seconds to recover. That doesn't sound like the pain I felt from his glare, it felt more internal. What is going on here? I should tell you all that I can't see Thomas in any of my visions either. But I see Bella in a bunch. She is still so blurry though, there is a major choice coming and once it is made everything should clear up. Alice ended her sentence in a whisper that was hard for even us to hear. She can't see him in any vision, does that mean he is going to leave? No, that doesn't sound right, she would see that. Will he die soon? I don't want him to go. I want to look at him more. I don't want my last look from him to be an angry one. As if to throw me a lifeline, Alice spoke again. But I didn't see him before today either. So, it could just be that vampire powers don't work on him. Remember, Alice, my power was able to work on him and ease his anger when we met him this morning. Jasper was intent on watching me drown in the possibilities it seemed. What happened this morning? I asked. Please. Tell me everything. Everyone looked at me in surprise and I too was surprised by my intensity. Why am I feeling this way? Everyone looked like they wanted to start talking, but the first bell rang, surprising all of us as we normally were gone by now. We will talk after school, we can try and make sense of it at home. Maybe Carlisle will know something. We all got up and went to our respective classes, all thinking something different. Unaware that it was Edward's choice to make on whether or not to kill Bella that everything hinged on. Chapter 12, Jim and Spanish. Thomas POV. After walking around for a while to clear my head, I started to feel better. Being in the middle of a crowd was not comfortable for me. I was able to hold it together for the most part. If I ignored my little interaction with the Cullen table, that was just weird, I told myself out loud. Luckily no one was close enough to hear, or it would just feed the rumor mill even more. I hope I didn't make Alice mad, though I still don't know what I did to earn a glare from Edythe. They are the ones that scared me to the point I reflexively acted. For the longest time, this was a daily occurrence. Halloween was a nightmare for me. Everyone running around in masks and skull pattern makeup, I shuddered at the thought. Pulled from my thoughts by the bell that signified the end of lunch, I began to walk back toward the main building, as that was where the map said my gym class was. Once I found the locker room for the boys, I started to look for the teacher. My schedule said his name was Coach Clapp. Wow, I bet he got made fun of as a kid. Asking around, I finally got a general direction from a somewhat helpful classmate and moved that way. Once I found him, I introduced myself and smiled as he took in my size and muscle definition. The first thing he said is that the school wouldn't be able to provide gym clothes in my size, but as long as I got a plain gray shirt and black sweats or shorts, I would be okay. He recommended Newton's Olympic Outfitters. They usually provided the best options in Forks. For anything better, I would have to travel to Port Angeles or Seattle. I had planned to go there anyway to look at their selection of weight training equipment, and I would need a new pair of shoes for this class also. After that was the conversation I knew was coming. No, I don't want to play football for the school, no wrestling either. Yes, I knew it was a shame not to put my physique to use for school. Okay, I will talk it over with Charlie and let you know if he can change my mind. Once he finally signed my schedule, I went and sat down on the bleachers and watched the rest of the class play volleyball and told myself to let the coach know about Bella's lack of coordination. She has gym as her last class if memory serves. It takes me a few minutes to recall all the damage she took and dished out during the volleyball class back in Phoenix. If the coach listened to him, her classmates should throw me an all-you-can-eat party for sparing them the trauma she would inflict on them all. After gym was over, I looked at my schedule and saw for my final class of the day, I had Spanish with Ms. Goff in Building 7. I knew this would be my easiest class of the day. My secret for scholastic success was that I had an echoic memory. The only class that challenged me was math, and ironically it was my favorite subject. The read-aloud technology, also called text-to-talk, was one of the best inventions for me. Audiobooks were so limited before its advancement, but now everything can be read out to me to file away. Yet another thing that Bella hated, but after I told her about my lack of enjoyment from hearing the same thing over and over, she settled down a bit over it. She just loved rereading her classic books. I found the class easy enough, and before entering I saw a sign that read, "The only language in this room is Spanish. No matter how little you speak, please try." So, I walked up to the teacher who was sitting at her desk and placed my schedule on it. Hola Sra. Goff. Soy un estudiante nuevo y me dijeron que cada maestro firmará mi horario. Hello Ms. Goff. I am a new student and was told to get my schedule signed by each teacher. After looking at my schedule, she replied. Hola Tomás, es un placer conocerte. Su español es muy bueno. Hello Thomas, it is good to meet you. Your Spanish is very good. The rest of the class interactions will be in Spanish, but I'm not looking to pad my word count for those who don't read or understand that language. Why don't you sit in the back with Emmett and Edward? They both speak excellent Spanish as well, and by sitting in the back I can work with those that need help. You may work on whatever you like so long as it doesn't distract the class. If your grades start to slip, then I will move you closer to the front so I can get you back on track. Translation: you can speak Spanish just as well as I can, so sit in the back and do the work I ask, then you can do as you wish, so long as you don't interrupt class. My favorite kind of teacher. After moving to the seat Ms. Goff pointed out, I had time to think about what she said about two other students who spoke Spanish. Emmett and Edward, there was no way there was more than one person each with those names, so I assumed I had two Cullens in this class. One was the guy that was bigger than me and the other was the one Bella couldn't take her eyes off. I smelled him before he came into the classroom. I wondered to myself if the skincare product they used made them smell sweet. I would have to ask if anyone else noticed the smell. He walked in and I was instantly on alert again. The guy was just intimidating, his size, his easy graceful movement, it all screamed danger to me. The only thing that kept me from standing up was the easygoing look on his face, the chubby cheeks made him look innocent for some reason. But most of all it was his eyes, they held no malice or calculation, just mirth. Like he was just done laughing at someone's joke. He sat down and leaned over to offer his hand. "Hello, I am Emmett." I took his hand and instantly regretted it, this man had a handshake like a vice. But being me, I couldn't let that show on my face. "Hello Emmett, I am Thomas." I tried to squeeze his hand back, but it didn't feel like I left any impression on him. He continued smiling at me and asked, "How are you liking your first day so far?" "It's school. Not much different than the others I have been to. Though it will take some time to get used to this cold. I don't know what I will do for a workout if it snows heavily again or gets icy. Just working out with weights would throw me off." Looking at his size, I assumed working out would be a good conversation for us. Emmett laughed. "Has the coach tried talking you into playing all the sports he coaches yet?" I liked his laugh, it was free and joyful. "He sure did, and I get the feeling he won't take my refusal to heart. I expect him to be on the phone with my uncle to try and get him to convince me or maybe go talk to him in person." Emmett laughed again loud enough to get a look from the teacher. Yes, he invented all sorts of reasons to go to the hospital and ask Carlisle to convince me to play. Promising everything from health coaches and scholarships. Too bad I'm just not into picking on weak guys. He glanced around and leaned in closer to me, and I tried to keep my reactions normal. In a whisper, "So is it true you have a thing for Alice?" It was finally my turn to laugh. "Does no one talk to your family without ulterior motives? Just because I spoke to her and drew a picture the whole school thinks I'm after her?" For the first time, I saw a shrewd look in his eyes. "Well, she is cute as a button, nothing comparable to my Rose, but still, I can see the wistful look some boys get when she is around. I am not really the type to think looks matter much in this world. Don't get me wrong, I like healthy girls over obese ones or the bone-thin idiots that try to look like those fake magazine pictures, but that's just from a health perspective. Besides, anyone who sees Alice with Jasper must know that they belong together forever. I feel that Jasper is like me with a burning inside him and Alice is his calming influence. Anyone that sticks so much as a finger between those two will lose their hand to Alice and their arm to Jasper, and that's if they are lucky." I finished. Emmett flashed me a knowing grin. "You have no idea." Chapter 13, After School. Thomas started paying attention to Ms. Goff, so he didn't appear rude for talking his way through his first class. The only reason they probably got away with the talking they were doing was because they spoke only Spanish. Emmett's accent was a little hard to place, but it seemed like an older vocabulary. He must have learned from someone who was from a rural area in the dialect. At one point, after Ms. Goff had given out her assignment for the day, she began walking around the classroom and speaking to some of the struggling students. I had answered all 10 of the review questions quickly and was now just marking time for class to end. Ms. Goff came to the back of the room and spoke to Emmett. "I noticed Edward didn't come today, is everything okay, Emmett?" "Yes, Ms. Goff, he got a headache during lunch and was trying to tough it out during biology, but it must have been too much for him. I will give him the assignment at home so he can turn it in tomorrow." "Thank you, I hope he gets to feeling better soon." When she was done talking, she drifted back to the front of the class. As the class was close to ending, everybody started to put their books away and wait for the last minute or two before the bell released us to the world. I looked over at Emmett. "It was good talking to you, Emmett. See you tomorrow." Emmett gave his good-natured smile and returned the sentiment. Yeah, see you tomorrow, man. With gym class being the last on Bella's schedule, I knew I wouldn't catch her before she got done, and seeing as it was in the same building as the main office, she would get there before me. Ready to be done with the place, I got to the office just before a girl opened the door. I grabbed it, keeping it open while she stepped in and dropped a small slip of paper in a wire basket, then she turned to leave just to see me holding the door for her. She hesitated for a moment, but seeing I wasn't blocking the door, she left quickly. I walked in and didn't pay any attention to the rush of wind when I allowed the door behind me to close. I moved to stand near Bella so we could turn in our class schedules together when I noticed the bronze-haired guy Edward standing stiffly at the desk. He turned and gave Bella a furious look before saying something I didn't catch to the secretary, then he stormed out of the office. His attitude earned a frown from me, as I really didn't like the look he directed at Bella. Bella and I approached and turned in our signed schedule, and the secretary asked, "How was your first day?" I just shrugged and said, "It's different from what I'm used to, but it's okay." Bella answered with a simple, "Fine," which I could tell was a lie. I wondered if she would talk about it on the way home or stay the silent martyr like normal. We walked to her truck, and I could tell she was struggling with something. I knew better than to press her, so I waited for her to say something. Once we were in the truck and waiting for it to warm up a little like you have to with older vehicles, she sniffed her hair and then turned to me, "Do I smell funny?" I looked her in the eyes. Here I thought it was me that stepped in dog crap, but that smell is coming from you. She had a horrified look on her face, and I just couldn't help laughing at her. "No bells, you smell like your normal self, strawberries and lilies." "Why?" She suddenly started hitting me almost in tears. "Don't. Why you? That's not funny." She punctuated each hit to my arm and chest with a word as I just laughed and squirmed in the truck seat. After hitting me a few more times, she finally settled down and threw the truck into gear and drove us home. "Just for that, we are having noodle summer salad for dinner, no meat." "No, that's not fair." I cried out in horror. I really should learn to cook more than just a few breakfast things, so she doesn't have this power over me. "Can we run by the sporting goods store before heading home? I need to get some gym clothes and shoes." I also wanted to look at their weight selection. "The station doesn't have some of the equipment I like." "Point the way, we will stop by the grocery store on the way back so you can't take too long at the sports store," she told me. She still had a little anger in her voice. Newton's Olympic Outfitters leaned very heavily into the hiking and camping gear, but I managed to find a shirt and shorts for my gym class. Unfortunately, they didn't have any black sweats in my size. Shoes were very limited also, as I refused to wear Nike. Once I was old enough to do my own research on the slave labor rumors, and after watching crybaby basketball stars get rich of endorsements, I swore that brand off. I knew Adidas had just stepped up their push for an ethical union in Indonesia, so I was good with their running shoes. Most of the other brands in the store weren't ones I would work with if I had any other option. I was also disappointed in their weight selection. All they had was concrete covered in plastic style. I didn't like them because they were awkward, and they took up too much room on the bar. However, I did manage to find a decent curl bar to replace the bent one at the police station. As soon as we had walked in, Bella was ambushed by a kid with short blonde hair and a greasy smile. After a few moments I finally remembered he was in our government class. He had the feel of a generic rich kid, but I knew better than to make snap judgments. As I checked out, I asked if they did special orders and was disappointed that any orders were limited to clothing only. "Guess we will be making a trip out of town at some point before long," I said to Bella as we walked towards her truck. She seemed very happy to have gotten away from Mark, or was it Matt? I didn't care to remember. After grocery shopping, I requested Bella drop me at the police station so I could get in my afternoon workout and told her I would ride back with Charlie. I could tell that Bella wanted some time to herself and she preferred working things out on her own rather than talking everything through. Maybe if she got caught up enough in her thoughts, she would forget her threat about dinner. I grabbed the new curl bar and made my way into the police station. I smiled at Geraldine, the dispatcher for the station. She told me to call her Jerry and had already given me the rundown on all the single girls she thought I would be interested in. She even brought up a couple of girls at the reservation she knew through friends. One named Leah was apparently hitting some major rocks in her relationship, and she thought I could be the cure. Rumor was that her boyfriend took off for a couple of weeks and refused to say where he went. I remembered that my great-grandmother came from the Quileute reservation back in the day. The family story was she ran off with an Oriental merchant and brought shame to the tribe, the black family specifically, as her brother was the chief at the time. I guess that made me part Indian. I would have to remember that when I put in for scholarships and grants. Though like all Americans anymore, I'm just a mutt. A general mixed breed from all over the world. After my workout, Charlie drove me home, but I guess Ken called in sick today, so Charlie would have to go back after dinner and spend the night at the station. I had a theory that Ken hurt his back trying to lift weights like he did in his younger days, but my only proof was some weights being moved around and his sudden illness. Bella and I assured Charlie it was no big deal, as we both wanted to impact his normal routine as little as possible. That night I could hear Bella struggle to sleep as the rain and wind were a new sound to the two of us. I dreamed again that night, the mall, as usual. When I woke up this time, I felt like my body had been trampled by the fleeing crowd again. The kicks hurt my body, and curses I was so familiar with echoed in my mind as I lay panting and staring at the ceiling. "Welcome to Tuesday, Thomas," I said as I sat up. Chapter 14, Missing Cullens. I got up and stripped the bed sheets to wash later. When I went to the bathroom to wash my face, I heard Bella talking in her sleep again and shook my head. "Looks like we will both be sporting Cullen-size sleep bags around our eyes for school today." I added a couple of extra miles to my run since I had the extra time. Once finished, I knocked at the door of the police station and saw that it wasn't locked, so I let myself in, calling out, "Charlie." "I'm in here," came a reply from the gym room. When I entered, I saw Charlie on the bench press with only a bit of weight on the bar. "Am I having a good influence on you already, Uncle?" I said half-jokingly. Charlie chuckled, "It helps me stay awake on long nights like this one. As soon as Jeff gets here, I will head home for some sleep and come back around noon." "Well, be sure and eat before you sleep. That's when you replenish most of your energy. Eat as much of that noodle salad garbage as you want. Please," I told him as I started to stretch out. I decided I would get a few of those posters that had simple workout routines on them, and a good stretching routine poster was a must. Older guys like Charlie, Jeff, and Ken would really hurt themselves with improper stretching. I still suspected that Ken had hurt himself by trying to relive his younger days and pulled a muscle in his back or something, but I had no proof. Charlie and I talked, and he was asking about certain exercises to do at his age, and what was good posture with different equipment. My memory served me well in answering his questions, and I could tell that Charlie was trying to connect with me. He asked a lot about Bella, and I knew he wasn't trying to snoop so much as to get a map so he could avoid any landmines. The best advice I could give him is that right now she has a lot going on, and his best bet was to treat her like a panicky horse in the corral. Give her space, but make sure she knows you're there so she can get used to you. When she picked me up for school, she had a big bowl of oatmeal for me. I ate in silence as I could see her doing one of her inner dialogue arguments. I followed my own advice and left her alone with her thoughts. She parked in the same spot as yesterday, and we went to the main building to get our books for the first half of the day. Promising to meet up at lunch, we said goodbye. Then it occurred to me that I would see her in government in an hour. I got to art class about 10 minutes early, and as soon as I entered, I saw Alice was sitting in her seat but smiling at me in the doorway as I hung my jacket up. "You are early today, or was yesterday an unusual time, so come to class?" "I wanted to talk about our year-end project. I'll start coming early seeing as I have a partner now." "What are our options?" "I didn't see anything in our syllabus," I asked. Ms. Ross left it as an open project so long as it had elements of art and it showed effort put in by both partners. She would judge it off her expectations. After yesterday, I assume her expectations will be high for us. And because I can't see you in my visions, I have no idea what we will do or what grade we will get. Alice thought to herself, finding the unknown thrilling and new to her. She didn't realize until last night that her original vision for her project had disappeared, and she couldn't see anything about it. When she told Jasper about this, he was uneasy. We tend to rely on my visions for safety, but if Thomas could block them, then it was a risk in his opinion. She didn't bring it up to anyone else because of Edward and Edythe leaving. Thinking of the forced separation of her family made Alice sad and her face showed it. It came as a massive shock that Bella was Edward's singer. Even more of a shock was that Edward managed to stay next to her for a full hour and didn't feed on her. They had heard rumors of the singer, a human whose blood was tailor-made for a specific vampire. Emmett even thinks he came across one many years ago, and he didn't even try and resist it, feeding as soon as he smelled her. "You okay, Alice? You have been frowning for several minutes." Thomas asked her. "I'm okay, I was just thinking about Edythe and Edward. They had to leave suddenly last night, and I don't know when they will return." Thomas frowned hearing this. He had wanted to see if Edythe still looked mad at him. He thought of asking Alice about Edythe, but then he decided not to. He always hated when guys asked for the inside track on Bella. "You want her, get her yourself. I hope they come back soon. I was hoping to talk with Edythe. I am not sure how, but I seem to have upset her at some point. When she calls to check in, I will let her know you asked about her," Alice said with a smile on her face. They didn't talk much more as the class started covering paint types and styles from the 1500s to the 1800s. At the end of class, we decided to come up with an idea for our end-of-year project and present it to each other on Friday so they could have the weekend to think it over. I went to government class and found Bella talking to Mike and Tyler. I say talking to her, but it was more like she was being talked at by them. They were both taking verbal jabs at each other with Bella being caught between them. "Mind if I get to my seat, guys?" I said in a rather impatient voice, my anger spiking for some reason. "Sure, sorry. Bella, we can talk more during our next class together," Mike said to Tyler more than Bella. Tyler didn't say anything but gave me a glare for a moment. He didn't like that I took Mike's side in his opinion. Bella just gave me an appreciative look and went back to her inner dialogue. Whoever got her going is in for it. If she ever gets up the nerve to actually make her thoughts known. I did a quick review of my actions recently to make sure it wasn't me who she was upset with. All I came up with was yesterday's joke about her smell, and I dismissed that as she already hit me a few times, so no inner dialogue was necessary. Shrugging my shoulders, I decided it was none of my business until she made it that way. Instead, I started to have my own inner dialogue about my temper getting the better of me. I knew it was always there, but usually, I had better control over it and less pushed. The rest of my morning was boring to the point of tears. I approached lunchtime with hopes that it would provide some entertainment. Once again, Bella met me at the door, and we went in together, but this time both Lauren and Jessica were waiting with her. Not looking forward to sitting in the middle of the cafeteria, I was happy when Mike came along and offered his table with his friends at a more defensible corner. I unashamedly agreed on our behalf. None of the girls seemed to mind if I ignored Bella. I really hoped this wasn't deserving of another vegetarian dinner as punishment. Bella seemed a little more relaxed after a short while in the new seats. I noticed Alice come in with Jasper, Rosalie, and Emmett. When I waved at her, she waved back with a smile, and Jasper gave me a nod of recognition which I returned. Then I went back to clearing my plate and taking the leftovers from Bella's. After lunch, there was gym class, and it was boring to the extreme. Volleyball held no attraction to me as playing against teens was ridiculously easy. The coach said that badminton was next, and I looked forward to it as my strength wouldn't be such a cheat there. During Spanish class, I talked to Emmett some more and brought up that I was looking for a lifting partner a couple of days a week so I could increase my weight. Emmett looked rather unenthused when I told him I wanted to break into 375 pounds this month, and if I could, I would like to break 400 by the end of the school year. Emmett thought to himself, I guess that's a bit strong for a human. Wonder what he would say if he saw Rosalie lift that with one hand and no effort. I should just pawn him off to Jasper. I am spending all the time I can with Rose right now, Thomas. Some family stuff going on has her on edge. I could talk to Jasper and see if he is free. He is stronger than he looks, even beating me in some wrestling matches. That's okay, Emmett. I forgot that Alice said there was an emergency in Alaska. I don't want to pull anyone's focus from family, it's one of the most important things in the world. I guess I can try and talk to Jeff and Ken to spot me at the same time. Not too big of a deal. Don't take too much time off, Emmett. It doesn't take long for muscle to turn into fat if you're not careful. Emmett just smiled at me. I am not too worried about that, thanks though. Chapter 15, Building a Routine. Not long after talking with Emmett, the bell rang, and it was the end of the day. I wasn't going to do an afternoon workout because my schedule called for today to be a break day. I don't want to hurt myself by overdoing it. I figured I would boot up the old computer at home and see if I could find the posters and stuff I had been thinking about, maybe get some ideas to present to Alice for an art project. Bella was less lost in her own mind today and we talked over our thoughts on school so far. I laughed when she compared Mike to a retriever-type dog and Eric from her first class was over-enthusiastic about talking to her. Poor Bella, boys are finally noticing you and you're treating them like garden slugs. How do you ever plan to play out one of your great love stories in all those books you read if you don't give the guys a chance? Or do you have your eye on someone different? Bella flushed and snapped back, what about you and Alice Cullen? As often as you wave at her I am surprised you haven't gone to sit with them. I know that table is at your optimal spot for your habit of keeping track of everyone that comes in and out of the cafeteria. She shot back at me rather defensively, I thought. I let her comment go as we were just pulling into the driveway. I remembered at the last minute that I wanted to look over her idol as I thought it was rather high. I could look up instructions for that while I was on the computer. When I walked into the house, the first thing I did was turn the computer on. As old as it looked, I was sure it would be 10 to 20 minutes before it was ready to do more than crash. After dropping her book bag in her room, Bella went directly to the kitchen and I followed in case she needed help with something. She put me to work wrapping potatoes in tinfoil after cleaning them as she pulled out several steaks and put some marinade on them. She turned the oven on, placed the potatoes and then started talking about homework she needed to get done. Leaving her to do her own thing, I went to the computer and checked my email first thing. Oh, an email from Renee. Hello Thomas. I hope you are doing well in Forks. I mean you must be, as I haven't heard from you or Bella yet. Write to me when you get a chance. Oh, another email from Renee. I still haven't heard from you or Bella. Write back and stop worrying me. Oh, and a final email from an hour ago, also from Renee. If one of you two don't respond to me by 5 p.m. I will call Charlie. I can't believe you are gone less than a week and you have already forgotten about me. I laughed and called for Bella as I quickly replied. Not sure what time zone she was in and fairly sure she wouldn't wait for 5 p.m. anyway. Hey Renee, nothing major is going on here as I'm sure you know. Forks is so sleepy it could second as a graveyard. We have been settling in and getting used to school the last couple days. I will jump aside so Bella can email you about her time. Love you. I quickly hit send and gave the computer to Bella to calm her overgrown child down. I loved Renee to death, but she was a quirky one, to say the least. An outsider would swear that there was a Freaky Friday situation going on and Renee and Bella swapped bodies the way the roles were reversed between the two. Once Bella calmed down her mother, I did my stuff and went out to tune up Bella's truck. It didn't help much, but maybe it would be less apt to break down in the future. Whoever took care of the engine did all they could, and I honestly would be looking for a new one already. When Charlie pulled up, I followed him into the house and saw Bella put the steaks onto the broil pan and into the oven. Charlie hung up his gun belt and went to change into his home clothes as Bella started to make a salad. I went to the living room and sat down to wait for Charlie to pick something to watch until dinner was ready. Once it was ready, we all sat down to eat. About halfway through, Charlie asked, "So what do you guys think of school here so far?" Bella told him about befriending Jessica and Angela, also bringing up Mike Newton, and naturally Charlie named off their parents and what they did. I brought up my budding friendship with Alice and talked about Jasper and Emmett a little. Bella brought up how the Cullens didn't seem to fit in well at school, and Charlie surprised us both by going on a sudden rant about how great it was to have Carlisle at the hospital and how there was never any trouble out of their kids, which is a dang sight more than I could say for some of the families that have been around these parts for a long time. He used his fork to drive the point home. "I just don't understand the superstitious nature of some people," Charlie finished. It sounded like Bella had hit a nerve. Both Thomas and Bella took note of this and filed it away for the future. The next few days passed in a haze of building a routine. Bella and I both started to get used to the school, the new people, and the weather. I met a guy named Ben that I enjoyed spending time with. He was a huge comic and anime nerd, so we had lots to talk about. He felt the same as me about the purity of classic anime that built the genre we see today. We looked past the big hits and talked often about the big failures like Evangelion and Scryed. His starter anime was Mazinger Z and mine was Robotech. We were both delighted to have found a fellow connoisseur of the arts in this small town. He was more into DC, and I was an Image Comics guy through and through, but we still got along despite his poor choices. He tried getting me interested in this light novel that was supposed to be an amalgam of Beast Boy and Martian Manhunter, but he said the author was on a break for relocation and a new job. I promised to look it over if he started it up again. Sometimes life just gets in the way of the best of intentions. Still, I had never gotten into the world of fan fiction much until he recommended a few. It gave me something new to listen to on my runs. Friday came along and I was looking forward to what Alice had come up with on our art project. When I got to class, I was the first one there besides Ms. Ross. Shortly after that, Alice came in and she had her usual smile when she saw me there already. "Someone is excited to figure out our project," Alice said as she sat down. "Sure thing, Sprite, act like I am the only one excited here," I told her. "Okay, you got me there. I am super excited," Alice squealed at the end of her sentence. "Ladies first, let's hear your ideas." Alice pulled out a folder that had way more pages in it than I thought we would make it through in a day, much less an hour. Luckily, she took pity on me. "All of these are ideas I came up with, but Jasper, being a stick in the mud, suggested that I trim it down to 3 main ideas. Tell your boyfriend that I love him a little bit right now." We would talk for days about the ideas in that folder. "It's like 4 inches thick, Alice. You want to complain or listen, Thomas? Do go on, my wicked little fairy." I smiled at her. Alice pulled out a piece of paper and started talking. "My first idea was for us to both paint or draw the other in whatever style we wanted. My second idea was to build a miniature model of Forks from back in 1943 when it was recognized as a city. The last one I chose was finding an art piece in our favorite movie and recreating it. Those are some good ideas, they make mine look like I didn't put much thought into them." I thought about the idea of us going to the Quileute Reservation and trying to learn a new art form from them and showcase it to the class. Another thought I had was to draw each other in attire from any time frame before 1970 to choose from. My last thought was to combine between the two of us and paint the class together. When I finished speaking, I noticed Alice had written down all the ideas and started to copy the page so we could each have one. I thought about just taking a picture with my phone, but her intense look made me drop that idea. Chapter 16, Workout Partner. Alice handed me the sheet of paper with all the ideas we came up with. She had a very businesslike look on her face. "Here are the options we have selected. Now as we agreed, we will think them over during the weekend and decide on Monday morning so we can start planning a schedule. I was reading the paper over and admiring Alice's handwriting when Ms. Ross said the thing every student hated to hear. Pop quiz. Though I found it fairly straightforward and easy, Alice still finished the 30-question test 15 minutes earlier than me. I noticed she was smiling a lot more than I had seen before, so I pulled out a piece of paper and wrote, "What has you so cheerful today? This is the first time I have seen you smile so much in the week I have been here." I passed it to her and watched as she wrote back. "I found out this morning that Edward and Edythe will be coming back to Forks this weekend. I don't like it when my family is separated." I read when she pushed the paper towards me. Before I could write anything, she pulled the paper back and wrote more. "I told Edythe that you had asked about her, and she was very suspiciously quiet about the subject. Want to hear the quick details about her? Her likes and dislikes." When I read this, I flushed a little. "It's not like that, Alice. She just looked upset with me the last time I saw her, and I wanted to clear it up." Luckily, before Alice could comment further, the bell rang. Time for government class. As Alice and I exited the building, I saw Jasper waiting as he sometimes does to walk Alice to her class. After greeting Alice, Jasper turned to me. "Emmett tells me you are looking for a lift partner to help with your workouts a couple of times a week." His southern accent made the question more of a statement. "I am. I have been at my current weight of 350 for longer than I like, but no one at the station where I work out can spot me for more than that solo, and getting two together just to help me seems too demanding on their time. I think I can help with that. If you give me a time and place, I would be happy to work out together. Only in the mornings though, I will need to get home to accompany my hummingbird after school." Jasper smiled at Alice. "That would be great, Jasper. I can't thank you enough. I was getting afraid I would be backsliding on my training. I was beyond happy to have found a workout buddy. I may not like people in large groups, but being alone sucked. I had brought up working out with Ben, but he was unenthused, to say the least, when I told him I woke up at 4:30 in the morning. Crap, that reminded me. I usually start my workout around 5 a.m. with a good hour of running, but if you want to skip that part, then I usually get to the police station around 6 a.m. and stretch out for 15 to 20 minutes before starting my lift routine. That sound okay to you?" I asked, half expecting him to back out. "'Tis no problem at all. I can park my bike at the station and come find you on your run, and we can go from there." Alice was absolutely beaming at Jasper, as if she were just as excited as I was to see Jasper working out. We exchanged numbers so we could communicate as we walked to Alice's classroom. I left them together and headed to my class. Bella was getting more comfortable with the new school and dealing with people who treated her like the new shiny toy in the toy box. The only one I truly thought she got along with was the girl, Angela. I noticed that I had her in my biology class along with Ben and Eric. I had seen a few looks directed toward Angela by Ben, but I had yet to form a solid opinion on it. Eric made the mistake of coming to me almost demanding that I help him get together with Bella. His reasoning was that he was much better than Mike. I just told him that I stayed out of Bella's life in that regard, and she was the only one who had the right to decide who she liked. He was lucky that it wasn't one of the days I was struggling with my temper. The rest of the day was nothing to speak of, just the normal heightened emotions of a Friday that the teachers tried to suppress with tons of homework. After the final bell of the day, Bella and I went home, and I quickly did most of my homework before heading out to the police station for my workout. I found the packages I ordered on the steps when me and Bella got home, and sure enough, they were the ones for the workout room at the station. Stopping at the kitchen table to tell Bella I was headed out, I noticed where she went wrong with her math homework. "You used the wrong theorem here." I showed her a list of theorems that were in the back of the book for reference and showed her a better theorem. She didn't seem very thankful, but it wasn't me who named that index, Math for Dummies. I kept the posters in their tubes and just ran with them in my hands all the way to the police station. I was happy that most people had gotten used to seeing me run and greeted them with a wave or nod as I ran by. The station was getting fewer calls about me and that was helpful. Jerry came in to help me put up the posters as every man knows that they are incapable of putting something on the wall without female supervision. I really didn't mind as she treated me like I expected a grandmother would do. Never having one though, I wasn't entirely sure. I rode home with Charlie as was my habit after my evening workouts, and Bella had a filling dinner of spaghetti waiting for us. I knew she loved it when we were satisfied with her cooking. It was one of the few places she would seek compliments and approval without embarrassment. Charlie also had a conversation with us about his habit of working weekends to make sure his deputies all had time with their families. As he didn't have one here usually, he took the hours, but if we wanted, he would rework it, so he had more time with us. We both told him again, that we didn't intend our stay to interrupt his schedule. Both me and Bella enjoyed alone time. Now that we had been here a week, I planned on exploring the forest area as it was strangely inviting to me for some reason. Bella would use the time to read and relax away from anyone. It's just the way we were. I texted Jasper to see if we were still on for the morning workout and he replied that we were. With nothing else to do, I went to my room and finished my homework, then spent some time meditating. I wasn't sure why, but lately, I had been feeling a restlessness in my body. At first, I shrugged it off as being in a new place, but when I started to get comfortable here, I knew there was more to it because my body just kept heating up and my energy was much more than usual. Another weird thing was that I started having trouble watching TV. Any quick movement had me wanting to react. Even when running, if I saw a bird scare up into the air due to my running by, I felt like I wanted to chase after it. I also started having trouble focusing inside buildings again. I thought I had worked through that years ago. But at the same time, this felt a bit different. When I suffered from my claustrophobia before, it felt like the walls got closer to me and wanted to suffocate me, making it hard to breathe. But now it was more like the walls were a cage, stopping me from moving as I wished. The rooms were too small. I felt like I needed more room to run around in, even if I was just sitting still. I also noticed that most all of my freehand drawings lately were of wide open landscapes or forest areas I had glimpsed near the town. It was the reason I planned to go hiking tomorrow after lunch. Something was calling to me out there, was all I could think as I fell asleep. Chapter 17, Morning Run. Morning came along and my alarm woke me up. I got up and did my usual morning routine, then headed out the door. It hadn't started raining yet, so I was thankful for that. I hated running in wet shoes. I didn't even want to think about what I would do during next winter. I guess I have all this year to figure it out. Suddenly, as I was running, I felt a threat approaching me. I didn't see anything, and I didn't hear it either, but my skin was crawling, and my instincts were telling me to escape. My eyes started going super active and I was checking out the tree line, the ditches, or any shadow in my path. I picked up speed, but I could still feel it drawing closer. My anger started to build, and my fingers were clenched into claws, not fists like normal. I wasn't paying attention to that, but all my senses were turned out like I was getting ready to fight. Just a couple minutes later I heard a shout from behind, "Hey Thomas! You keep that pace up and you won't have much energy for lifting later." I let out an explosive breath and yelled back, "Hey Jasper! How long have you been on my trail?" I felt like I was being hunted for a while now. Amazing how the morning fog can twist your perspective right. My pulse started calming down and returning to normal as Jasper came up alongside me. My anger and fear melted away faster than I thought possible, but I didn't really pay attention to that as I still felt like I was being watched from the tree line for some reason. Jasper and I continued at a good pace, but I just couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "Hey Jasper, you get a feeling like we are being watched from that tree line over there?" "Not as I can tell, though I am not really familiar with these parts. Our house is a bit farther out of town. Think maybe it's a loose dog." "Could be. No matter, with the two of us here I don't think we will be in any danger." Thomas and Jasper continued the run and Thomas was again surprised at Jasper's movement. Everything he did just flowed like a stream, smooth and easy. Once they went to the police station, Thomas was amazed by the bike that was in the parking lot. It was a custom fat tire Harley. Anything more than that was just too far above my knowledge level. Jasper just watched me for a moment and said, "My sister had it modified for me." "You mean Rosalie is behind the modifications of this beast?" "Man, that will teach me about judging people." I could never have envisioned her being a gearhead. We made our way inside the station only to find that Charlie wasn't there. This had happened a few times and I was told not to worry about it. Just keep out of stuff and there would be no problems. So, I took Jasper to the workout room, went over my usual routine with him and asked what he preferred. "I don't work out with any plan, Thomas. My fitness level isn't from a gym schedule. Mostly from fighting and wrestling with Emmett. Though since Alice calmed me down, I haven't gotten to fight much lately. I will just follow your schedule and we can see what works from there." I didn't want to jump straight to increasing the weight until Jasper and I were more comfortable working out. Every once in a while, I would see him grimace and frown like he caught a smell he didn't like. But he would be normal a moment later. My curiosity didn't really kick in, so I did not think anything of his behavior. My anger calmed down a lot as well. I thought it was a very relaxing workout and Jasper was in great shape because he didn't struggle with any of the weight on the bar today. When I pointed that out, he just said it was because he was well rested and excited to try something new. He was sure he would struggle as the weight increased. He seemed amused when I went over the stretching routine with him, but I tried to impress on him the importance of it nonetheless. As we were finishing up, I heard the door open and stuck my head out to see Charlie bringing in a cuffed kid who didn't look much older than me. I ducked back into the room and told Jasper we would head out as soon as Charlie put the guy in a cell. After a few minutes, we heard the loud clang of the drunk tank door and stepped out to see Charlie walking toward his desk. "Hey Uncle Charlie, I wanted to introduce my new workout partner before we finish off for the day. This is Jasper Hale." Jasper came out and held his hand out to Charlie. "Chief Swan sir, it's my pleasure to meet a lawman." Charlie took his hand. "No need to be so formal, Jasper, everyone gets a free pass to call me Charlie until the first time I arrest them. Give my regards to your father when you see him. It's this town's good luck your mother likes small town living and Dr. Cullen graced us with your family's presence. Most of all, I would like to thank you for being this guy's workout partner. I don't think we could handle all the sick leave my deputies have to take after hurting themselves trying to keep up with this monster here. Well, you guys have a good day. I need to get the paperwork rolling for Eddie so his mother can bail him out when he sobers up." We both gave our goodbyes and Jasper peeked out the door to see the sun coming up. For whatever reason he put on his helmet and gloves before going outside and heading to his bike. He waved at me and in no time, he had started his bike and was gone from the parking lot. I just walked home enjoying the sun as I went. POV Jasper. As soon as I cleared town, I opened the throttle completely and reveled in the ride. It wasn't as personal as feeling a horse moving with you, but it was the best I would get ever again. Horses are smart enough to sense the threat of a vampire. If one tried to ride them, they just went into full panic mode, and nothing would stop them until they got away from the smell or died. I contemplated riding past the turn for home and staying with the feeling the bike was giving me, but I knew that until the family saw me with brown eyes, they would still secretly be worried. After all, I was the newest vegetarian and still struggled at times. Mostly when emotions were high. I turned down the dirt road that led to the glass house in the woods we were calling home this time around. How I longed to give Alice one we didn't have to move away from. The garage door opened to reveal my little piece of sanity in this insane world I had been drug into. "Hello my love, I do hope I didn't keep you waiting long. You could have taken that ride if you wanted, Jazz, I knew you were strong enough to resist. You could see me with Thomas this time. I don't need any visions to know you're a good man, Jasper. Give me more credit than that." After Edward and Edythe came back, Alice finally revealed her blind spot when it came to Thomas and those he interacted closely with. As near as she could tell, Thomas had to be in close proximity to block her visions of someone. For example, she was unable to see me while I was working out with Thomas, but as soon as I left his side I reappeared in her visions. "Did you lose sight of anyone else this morning, darlin'?" "I wasn't really thinking of anyone but you too hard, but now that you bring it up, I lost sight of Edythe for a time also. While she was out running in the woods." "Why do you ask?" Thomas picked up on someone watching him just before I met up with him, but as soon as I arrived, he said he couldn't feel it anymore. Even with me trying to keep his curiosity down, Thomas has very good senses. He even caught that the weight we were lifting was very light to me, but him being twice my size found it a workout. I need to pay better attention next time we work out. Alice smiled wickedly. I wonder how long it's going to take Edythe to figure out what's happening to her. Chapter 18, Scars. Thomas POV. I got home and moved around the house quietly. Bella was still asleep, and I didn't want to wake her. With my homework all done and any chores around the house needing to be done would wake Bella, I decided to get dressed and explore some of the surrounding forested area. Putting on a pair of pants with a t-shirt and then a sweater over that, I slipped downstairs to put on the hiking boots that had become my everyday shoes here in Forks. Leaving a note on the kitchen table so no one would worry about me, I walked out to the backyard and just stared at the forest in front of me. Most of the trees are bare of their leaves, but it still managed to convey the dark look of a forest from the pictures I had seen before. There were spots that still had snow on the ground, and that was a surprise to me. With all the rain I thought for sure it would have all melted off. The smell was clean. The earthy smell of damp soil and bark threatened to clog my nose. My eyes didn't like not being able to see very far into the distance, and my ears were constantly distracted by unfamiliar sounds. Despite all of this sound and smell I was unused to, I still felt. I was having trouble making sense of it myself, but invited was the only word that came close. If I imagined the forest to be alive, I would say it was watching me wearily, inviting me in, but still unsure if I was a good thing or not. After walking for about an hour, I found a nice flat rock and took my parka off so I could sit on it and keep my butt from getting wet. Once I sat down, I started to meditate. It was the easiest transition into meditation that I had ever had. My thoughts went still as soon as I closed my eyes. Silence enveloped me like a cocoon. I knew any unusual sound would carry to me instantly. When I meditated, my anger wasn't going down like it usually did. I wasn't getting any calmer, but the fire I felt inside was hotter, almost purified. If I looked at my anger as a flame inside my mind, I would have once said it was a campfire red and yellow flame all-consuming and looking to burn its surroundings. But now it felt like a white-hot flame that just existed. It didn't flicker and reach out to catch other stuff on fire like before. A torch that sat in my mind, and anything that got close just turned to ash. It was easier to control but much closer to the surface. When I came to, I was sweating so much that my sweater was drenched, so I took it off and had just a light t-shirt on. I tried to stand up, but my legs were stiff from sitting for so long. I had to slowly straighten them and wait for the pins and needles feeling to go away before I could stand steady. When I started stretching my body out, I felt all my joints popping and crackling and enjoyed the feeling. Checking my phone, I realized it was nearly 4 p.m. and I had been out here for over 6 hours. I picked up my parka and sweater and slung them over my shoulder and started walking back home. It surprised me a little on how easy it was to find my way, but I always had a good sense of direction. I kicked off the mud from my boots on the porch and then used the boot brush before stepping into the house. I always thought the idea of a mud room to take your shoes off was stupid, and it is in Phoenix maybe, but here in Forks, it was just as important as any room in the house. As I walked into the house, I saw Bella relaxing on the couch with a book. She looked at me. "You were gone for quite a while, you get lost or something? Not everyone has a sense of direction like you, sis. Getting lost this close to home would be embarrassing." I was just caught up in my meditation and lost track of time. "How was your day?" "I got lots of stuff done that I had been meaning to." Looked up some good ideas to take my room out of my kindergarten phase, but they will all have to wait for good enough weather to air the paint out and keep some furniture outside for a night or two. Charlie called to say he was eating at the lounge tonight, so his car was visible to the bar crowd if we wanted to join him. That sounds good to me. I will get cleaned up and we can go whenever you feel like it. Looking up at you from the couch, it looks like you grew a couple more inches. You ever plan to stop growing? I rubbed the back of my head. Beats me, I didn't realize that was still going on. I thought I hit my peak height last year. Dinner with Charlie wasn't a big affair, we met a couple more of the locals who came by the table. The most memorable was a guy who dressed as Santa during Christmas and laughingly recalled when Bella at 7 years old called him butt crack Santa. Bella flushed even though she couldn't remember the incident. It was definitely something she would have said back then. She was in her phase of making it known to Charlie just what she thought of this town and how much she didn't like being taken away from her mother. It wasn't long after that, Charlie started taking his vacation to go see her instead of insisting she come here. I had talked with Jasper about Sunday being the one day I took off lifting to give my body a rest, and he was good with meeting up before school on Monday for the next workout. I talked with Bella about needing to make a big city run for more weight, and she said she wanted to get some shopping done for warmer clothes. We decided to make a full day of it starting when we woke up. On our way back from Port Angeles, Bella's truck was letting us know what it thought of going 60 miles an hour, and passing traffic was letting us know what they thought of her driving so slow. It was all entertainment for me, but Bella was flushing in embarrassment. I had picked up 4 more 50-pound iron plates for the gym and Bella got a sweater, but she wasn't happy with the prices there for the most part, so she didn't get much. Her big find was a cookbook dedicated to fish and game local to the area. I knew I was looking forward to putting a dent in Charlie's freezer full of wild game. Sunday evening, I spent my time going over the art project ideas and worked up some things to discuss with Alice in the morning, then went to bed. Monday morning of my second week of school was not off to a good start. I was woken up by a nightmare at around 2 a.m. and it took forever to get back to sleep. Once I did, it seemed like 5 minutes later my alarm woke me. I stumbled around and got myself together enough to get my school bag packed to leave in Charlie's cruiser and get my eggs down. Once I walked outside, I was surprised to see Jasper was waiting for me. "You're here earlier than I expected, Jasper. Looking forward to the run. Don't let it get to your head, but I do enjoy the company of someone outside my family more than I expected. Maybe it's because you're new here, you don't look at anyone in my family wearily like the locals, so it's nice." I started stretching out my back and legs as we talked. I discovered that he was a huge Louis L'Amour, Western author, fan, and it was something we had in common. As we started to run, we talked about our favorites. He liked the Iron Marshal and the Key Lock Man, while my favorites were the Daybreakers and Flint, with Riley's Luck running very close to the group. As we ran, I started to overheat again, so I took my jacket off and wrapped it around my waist. I decided we had gotten to know each other enough to ask questions, so long as it wasn't too personal of a nature. "So, Jasper, I have been kind of curious but didn't want to offend you, and if it is personal, you in no way have to answer, but... well, what's with the scars all over your body?" He stiffened a bit at my question. "I don't know if it's the streetlights reflecting from the fog or what, but they are really sticking out this morning. You look a bit like you were mauled by a pack of dogs when you were young or something, but the scars have faded so much it's nearly impossible to tell they are there." Jasper was lost in thought for a bit, but he finally answered me. "Now Thomas, I don't want to hurt you or anything, but staring at me so much that you pick up these little things has me a bit worried about your intentions. You're a fine person, but Alice is the only one for me." "Oh, that's nice, I never knew you had a sense of humor." "All good, man, like I said, you are under no obligation to answer. We all have our histories." Jasper ran a bit longer before saying anything. "You're right, Thomas. My early years were very chaotic. You could very well say I was mauled. It's something I am learning to outgrow thanks to my family and especially my Alice. Chapter 19, True Workout. I felt closer to Jasper at that moment. It sucked that he had a rough childhood, but at the same time, it was nice to see there were others dealing with trauma and making a normal life for themselves. Seeing Jasper and Alice together gave me hope that there was someone out there that would understand and accept me. Thanks Jasper, you and Alice have made this move to a new town bearable. Don't tell that little sprite, but I think in this last week you two have been better friends than I have ever had before besides my sister anyway. Sad as that may seem. It was true, sadly my anger and intensity had always made people avoid me. Well, except for Bella, she was a stubborn one that wouldn't let me get away with chasing her away. No matter how bad-tempered I was towards her, she just stuck out her chin and challenged me right back. I felt something wet on my face and it slid down my cheek. I was mortified. Please don't tell me I'm man crying right now. About to die from embarrassment until I noticed that it was snowing, I let out a laugh. Bella is going to love waking up to this, I said with sarcasm. She not a fan of the snow? Not in the least, I imagine she has cleared her memory of ever having seen it outside her TV shows. Jasper just chuckled, bad place to have moved then. She will get over it. That girl is a lot more susceptible to change than she likes to admit. Though if you see her driving towards you in the snow or ice and you like the vehicle you are in, I would be very cautious. I laughingly told him. At this point, the run was over and we were approaching the police station. I was a little surprised that I hadn't worked up much of a sweat, though I chalked it up to the chill of the snowy weather. I opened the door and called out. Ken. Is it you working today? Hey kid, yeah, I got the night shift this week. Oh, you got company today hey? Yeah, this is Jasper Hale. He has been working out with me the last few days. Jasper waved at Ken who looked at him a little weary. You guys have at it, I will just stay here finishing up some paperwork. Thinking nothing of it, I just moved to the weight room and Jasper followed. Must have been a weird night. He seemed a little spooked at us coming in. Jasper just frowned and didn't reply. I got some new weights so I can start increasing my lift weight. I was thinking about trying 370 and going from there. Are you comfortable with spotting me at that weight? Jasper just smirked behind Thomas where he couldn't see. Yeah, I think I can handle that. But I better keep it around 320 for me. I am not all bulked out like you and Emmett. I prefer a balance between fast and strong, not the extreme of strength like you two. Jasper felt it was a pain to keep up the charade, and the line about Thomas thinking Alice and himself being great friends made him feel bad. But it would keep Alice safe, so he buried the discomfort. He wondered what his new friend would think if he could see him lift 400 pounds with 2 fingers. Smiling at the thought, he admitted that Alice's idea of spending time with Thomas was a good one. The slight camaraderie he felt helped him to push back on his thirst. Now if he could just feel this for other humans, maybe he wouldn't be the weak link of his family. He hated the weakness, especially as it put Alice in danger. The idea that he would be the one to expose the coven to danger put a lot of pressure on him. Thomas added the weight of the bar, 45 pounds, and plate weight together to get to 280 and told Jasper to start his warm ups. Jasper took his turn at moving the weight up and down on his chest. Remembering the posture and struggle of the guys on the TV show he watched to help him blend in and keep Thomas unaware of his nature. The deep breaths caused some discomfort as the smell of Thomas and the deputy's blood burned the back of his throat, but it was bearable. Jasper jokingly thought that resisting the thirst was the true workout he was getting. When Jasper was done with his routine at 320, Thomas used that weight as a warm-up and was surprised at how easy it seemed. He increased the weight slowly until he got to his desired weight of 370. He sat up after doing a rep of 10 and looked at Jasper. That seemed too easy, maybe we can push the lift a bit farther. Do you mind spotting me another 20 pounds? I asked Jasper. No problem, even if I do struggle with it, we have the deputy to help if needed. Let's do it, I am just not feeling the burn from the lift I expected. At 390 pounds, Thomas still frowned but didn't want to waste any more of Jasper's time. He would need to ride back to his house so he could go to school with Alice and the rest of his family. Let's call it here, Jasper. I am beginning to think something is wrong with the weights I bought. I will test them out later tonight. You be careful riding back home. Jasper told Thomas he would see him at school and walked out the door to his bike. He didn't bother with a helmet today and just maneuvered the bike like it was a sunny day. Thomas just shook his head and went back to the weight room and did his cool-down routine. Once Charlie got there, Thomas took his shower, but the entire morning routine didn't seem to have made him sweat much today. He shrugged it off and went to the door to wait for Bella to pick him up. Charlie came out of his office and walked up to Thomas. You got an idea what you want to do for your birthday this year, kid? If memory serves, it should be coming right up. Wow, with the move and all I nearly forgot my birthday. How weird. Charlie looked up at Thomas. It's your big 18th, we can't just ignore it now, can we? You better come up with something or Bella will, and we don't want that now, do we? No sir, we don't. I'll come up with something. As if on cue, I heard the big red truck pull into the parking lot and looked over to see Bella gripping the steering wheel like it was a life preserver and looking around cautiously. See you after school, Charlie. When I hopped into the truck with Bella, she tossed me a few yogurts. Sorry, I woke up late today. All good, Bella, you know I appreciate the effort you put into feeding a pig like me. She blushed in true Bella fashion and started down the normal side roads for school. When we parked, I turned to Bella and said, well, it's the start of a new week. Let's hope it's better than the last. I got out and walked to art class and saw Ms. Ross unlocking the room. When I entered, I gave my good morning and went to my seat. A few moments later, 2 students walked in and went directly to Ms. Ross's desk. I tuned them out and waited for Alice so we could talk about our project. Finally, she came in and sat down, so I jumped right into my idea. Okay, Alice, let's combine a couple of our ideas. Tell me what you think of the idea that we each paint 3 different people in our lives, 1 in each medium. I was thinking of the main ones like oil painting, watercolor painting, and acrylic painting. But we have to add some randomness to it, like drawing lots to see who we paint. Alice seemed excited. Do we draw the same person drawn from the lot, or is it 1 lot for each person? Well, seeing as it's a partner-themed project, we should probably do the same person we draw from the lot. But we can choose which of the 3 mediums to use. We can use it to show the different takes an artist personally adds to the subject. What do you think? Should we run it by Ms. Ross? I love it. Let's do that. She was so happy she clapped and bounced in her seat. We went to tell the idea to Ms. Ross, who seemed to like the idea but wondered if there was enough time left. We assured her we would put in the work to meet the deadline of 2 weeks before school ended. Chapter 20, First Contact with Edythe. Art class moved along at its normal pace and Alice was in a very good mood. When I asked her about it, she just said, my family is whole again. I didn't know what to make of that but was just happy that she was happy, I guess. Jasper didn't make it today to walk Alice to class, so I walked her alone. We just talked about art and some of the ideas we had. I dropped her off at her math class and proceeded to government, not really paying attention. When government class was over, I opened the door to see it snowing again and laughed at Bella's look of distaste. Snowballs flew around occasionally but no one tossed one my way. I was happy for that, of course. The thought of the size of snowball my hands could make, along with some idea of the force behind me throwing something, could have been the reason no one tossed one my way. Regardless, I was happily dry when I made it to biology. Mr. Banner was placing microscopes on everyone's table along with a box of slides. As I sat down, Mr. Banner came to my desk. Don't worry if you can't answer all the slides, Thomas, I will take into consideration you are working solo on this lab. I just thanked him and looked it over. It seemed like we were identifying the phases of an onion root. Sorry to disappoint Mr. Banner, but I had done this lab before and with the much more difficult whitefish blastula. It took me all of 10 minutes to get them all done. When Mr. Banner saw me just sitting there, he came to me, and I explained how I had finished so quickly. He looked at me suspiciously and just walked back to his desk shaking his head. My next class was still my favorite, I just loved working with numbers. They were a constant that never changed. Luckily my distaste for the teacher Mr. Varner didn't mean anything to my test scores. I sat in my seat and waited for class to begin, but just before the bell rang the door opened one last time. In walked the pale beauty of Edythe Cullen. I was again struck by her appearance, standing at 5 feet 1 eye and I guessed again, with her long bronze hair pulled back into a careless ponytail. She had the fit girl look and moved with a grace and power that was easy to see if you knew what to look for. She handed a piece of paper to Mr. Varner and said, "I wasn't finding trigonometry very challenging, so I requested a change to this class." Her voice was matter of fact, and not at all asking for his approval. Hardly waiting for his response, she turned and headed for the only empty seat in the room, right next to mine. The funny thing is that I didn't notice the seat there last week, empty or otherwise. I will say with confidence that I did not drool as this very attractive girl approached me, but that's about all I can say. My eyes took in her shapely arms and legs but still voluptuous body, and there was a new file opened in my brain specifically for her. She wore a pair of low-waist blue jeans that were split up the bottom seam a few inches to flare over her shoes. A cream top that worked well with her bronze hair started at her neck and had long sleeves, but the lower half of the shirt was short enough to show off her toned abs and belly button. It was slightly scandalous for this small town, but I had seen much more skin displayed by the schoolgirls in Phoenix. "Seen enough?" a velvet smooth voice asked from beside me. "Nope, I'll want to look again as soon as I get the chance," I replied instantly. Then, I blushed at my own response. "Sorry, that came out as rude." She stared at me for a moment and then I saw a flash of pain come over her face for a brief second. "Are you okay? You looked like you were in pain for a moment." Thomas whispered so as to not draw the attention of the teacher. "I am okay, I pulled a muscle the other day. It hurts if I move wrong," she said, looking down. Thomas looked at her pale face that was so like yet unlike Alice's. He barely noticed the feature any longer. Even as young as we are, if we are doing something strenuous, stretching is always worth it. I offered her my wisdom. She smirked at me. "I will try and keep that in mind. I am Edythe, by the way, though I am sure you heard that from your lunch squad." Thomas smiled. "My name is Thomas Raizel. It is good to meet you, Edythe. I haven't seen you since my first day. Alice said you had a family emergency. I hope it all worked out okay." "Oh? Been here only a week and you already noticed my absence after the first day. Should I be charmed you think so highly of me already?" Her voice had a challenging tone to it that I didn't really like. "Why would my opinion of you matter? Your absence made my friend sad. Watching her draw pictures like that made me feel bad for her. You would be surprised how the emotions of an artist affect their work." The anger inside me was stoked a bit by this girl, and her stuck-up attitude. She looked startled at my response and turned her head to indicate the discussion was over. I didn't mind the silence, I just started working on some math problems in the book to help me calm down. The rest of the class passed by with me concentrating on how different theorems affected different problems. Not that many would work on the same problem, but it was fun to work the processes out. I remembered the movie Hidden Figures with a genius mathematician using old math proofs from hundreds of years ago to solve modern issues, well, modern for the time frame of the movie that is. Taraji Henson was terrific in the role, and it was an exceptional story. Yes, I know the movie didn't come out until 2017, but I liked it enough to mention it. Besides, it's an O story. My random thoughts were interrupted by the bell that signaled the end of class and the beginning of lunch. As I stood up, I looked over at Edythe. "I am glad that you came back quickly, and I hope everything works out with the issues you and your brother had to leave for. See you tomorrow." Not giving her a chance to reply, I made my way to the door and walked towards my locker. as I put my books away and closed my locker. I was startled by Edythe, who was standing next to me, but I hadn't seen her until I closed the door. I just looked at her, waiting for her to say something, but she just stared at me, lost in thought. "Can I help you? Do you want the assignments or notes from the last week of class?" Edythe's eyes sharpened as if she had made a decision, and she moved closer to me. She looked into my eyes with her light honey gold eyes, and I felt lost in them for a brief moment. The shape of her eyes mixed with the unusual color made them all the more impactful up close. I was at a loss of what to do, so I just relaxed and resisted the urge to step back because of the overwhelming sweet scent coming from her breath. "You need to convince your sister to stay away from my brother Edward for her own good, and forget I told you this." As soon as she broke eye contact with me, she stepped around me to walk away. I was stunned for a fraction of a second. Then her words played in my head once again, and I was livid. I turned to look at her retreating figure. "Just who the fuck do you think you are?" At my words, I saw Edythe stop and turn to face me. She then looked around as if to see who I was talking to. She appeared to be shocked when she saw my eyes locked on her own. Surprisingly, the hallway was empty at the moment except for the two of us. "First of all, Miss Cullen, I don't know what my sister thinks of your brother. So far as I know, they have only had one class together before your emergency took you both from town. Second, if your brother is so weak that he needs his sister to help undercut Bella, then she will no doubt see that about him and step over the shallow puddle he is without a backward glance. Finally, if it is as you suspect, and my sister feels something for your brother and he returns that feeling, then good luck. She is one of the most stubborn people I have ever met." Chapter 21, Too Far. Edythe POV. For the first time since the Spanish fever nearly killed her and the vampire venom turned her, Edythe felt heat from another person. It radiated off the man in front of her in waves. "How dare he speak to me like this? I am only trying to save your sister, and this is how you treat me?" Looking at me with those glorious blue eyes filled with anger yet again. Her mind was a mess of thoughts. As Thomas moved toward her, all Edythe could think was, "Don't come near me, I don't want to hurt you." She was relieved when he stormed past her in righteous anger. She wanted to reach out with her mind to see what she had done wrong and why he reacted this way. But every time she or Edward tried, it was like their minds were going through the vampire venom yet again. The pain was unbearable. She moved to the wall and leaned against it, taking deep breaths as if she needed them. How was he invulnerable to both her gifts? Neither she nor Edward could read Thomas's mind, and the compulsion she just tried to lay on him didn't work for even a second. This was unheard of in all her time alive. She didn't know how to make this better. Her power always saved her in the past, no one could deny her. Even the strongest vampire in their coven would be compelled for a day or two depending on what she compelled him to do. The coven will be pissed when they learn of this. "Edward. Did I go too far? I was only trying to help. What will he say?" Edythe couldn't calm her mind, but she moved her body towards the lunchroom. She skipped the food line and walked straight to the table where Emmett was shaking snow from his hair and Edward was sneaking glances at Bella through that bitch Jessica's mind. When she sat down, Alice turned towards her. "I lost sight of you again. Did you go and talk with Thomas finally instead of following him around like a stalker?" Edythe reached for her sister's hand. "Alice. I messed up. Badly, I think." Hearing her tone, Edward looked over at his sister and read her thoughts. His jaw dropped, and anger was shown in his eyes. "What do you think you were doing, Edythe?" His tone was too low for humans to hear, but the force in his voice left no doubt that he was upset with his sister. It took the rest of the table by surprise, as they had never seen Edward and Edythe truly fight before. Edythe turned to her brother with desperation in her eyes. "I was only trying to help Edward, I swear it. I don't want to see you go through this pain you are inflicting on yourself." Edward stood up as the bell rang. "And how did that work out for you?" He walked out of the cafeteria trying to decide if he should still go to class or if his sister's actions made that impossible now. Everyone else go to class, nothing will happen today. Edward will be okay. I will take Edythe home and we can talk later. Yes, it is firming up. I see us all there in my visions. Alice's eyes came back into focus, and everyone stood up and left. Jasper kissed Alice as he walked by. See you, hummingbird. Edythe allowed Alice to lead her out of the cafeteria and into the woods. Seeing that Edythe was still not able to focus, Alice took her in her arms and ran for home as only vampires could do. If anyone saw the 4 feet 10 and Alice carrying the nearly 6 feet Edythe like a princess, they would no doubt wonder what kind of dream they had just walked into. Luckily no one saw them, and they were soon home and sitting on the couch. Now, tell me what happened, Edythe. Alice demanded. After Edythe explained, Alice just looked at her. Oh, you spoiled child, Edythe. Your compulsion works on the mind, and it may have never failed at compelling a human to do what you want before. But neither has anyone managed to block you out of their mind until Bella and Thomas. You didn't even think of this, you just wanted your way with no effort as usual. If it were possible, Edythe would be in tears by now. Her family warned her that she used her compulsion too often. But when it came to her compelling people to forget their suspicion of the Cullen family, they never said anything. Why is this so different than when I use my power to help the coven? I didn't do this out of spite, I wanted to help my brother. Alice looked her in the eye. Do you not realize that since you started using your compulsion so much that all your interactions outside the family go exactly the way you want them to, or you change it to do so? You used to like arguing and bargaining with humans when you had the chance. But now you just compel them to think the way you want them to think. Like you are above them. Alice stood up and finished by saying, no one can fix this for you, Edythe, this you will have to do on your own. Before waking up to her room to look at the picture Thomas drew of her. I really hope this doesn't affect our friendship, Thomas. I am as frustrated as Edythe with you blocking my power somehow. Thomas POV. Being in the presence of Edythe was just increasing my anger. The surprised look in her eyes when I spoke back to her was like the look on a child's face who had never been told no before. I had to get out of this hallway, and the fastest way out was to go past Edythe. Not stopping to look at her again, I rushed past her, refusing to stop as I hit the door to the courtyard. This wasn't far enough, so I raced into the woods to find a place to let the last grip of control I had over my anger go. The trees passed in a blur, and I barely registered it, my feet moving on their own. My pace fell to a run instead of a sprint. Running at this pace I felt I could go forever and have enough to sprint every once in a while. My head started to clear, and I started to enjoy moving through the snow-covered forest. It was peaceful and helped my anger return to the small white flame. I started to ponder the girl that made me so angry. Was it her words or was it the way she said them, that made me lose it? If I looked at her words, then she was trying to tell me that Edward was dangerous for Bella, and she didn't want him to know she had warned me. But the way she said it made my back go ramrod straight. The tone of expectation that I would just accept her words with no reservations and more importantly no explanation for the one saying such things. It could also be taken as Bella wasn't good enough in her eyes to be with her brother and I needed to explain that to her. No way in hell was that true in my opinion. Bella was a great girl, and any boy would be lucky if she liked them. Besides, if Edward didn't like her then he should be the one saying that, not Edythe. And I am sure as hell not going to get in the middle of it. I came to a stop near a creek and knelt for a drink. It was ice cold and very refreshing. Getting another handful of water, I splashed my face just because I wanted to. Suddenly I heard a scream come from farther down the creek. I raced towards it without a thought. It sounded like it came from the other side of the stream, so when there was a shallow spot I half jumped, and half ran through the water. As I got closer to where I thought I heard the scream, I heard another one that was full of pain and fear. I also recognized rage surrounding all the other feelings. As I broke through a tree line, I saw a girl about my age with her face lifted to the sky and her clenched hands thrust behind her. Her chest rose and fell in quick gasps as she was breathing in after letting loose with another scream of pain and loss. She must not have heard me due to her own screams, and I stood there just watching her. She had on a pair of blue jeans and wore a red top, leaving her shoulders bare. Her black hair was long and tied in 2 braided ponytails. The braid was loose, and many hairs had escaped the rubber bands. Chapter 22, Edythe. Are you okay? I asked softly, trying not to startle the girl. She had a round face, with a little childhood chubbiness still there in her cheeks. The side I could see from my vantage point had tear stains falling down them. Pick. At my words, the girl jumped a little, but she had no fear in her dark eyes as she turned to look at me. She didn't try and wipe her face free of her tears or shrink away from me. She looked at me challengingly. What are you doing on my people's land? I am sorry, I was running through the woods and heard a scream. I just wanted to make sure no one was hurt or in danger. Go back to your side of the river, paleface. Learn to mind your own business as well. The girl said as she turned her back to me and walked into the trees nearest to her. My first thought was of anger at how she treated my concern for her, but then I remembered the rage in her scream and let it go. I shrugged my shoulders and then returned the way I came, looking for another shallow spot to cross the water. Walking back through the trees toward town, I pulled out my phone and saw that there was no way I would make it back to school for class. I sent a text to Bella telling her not to wait for me and do her own thing after school. I was trying to think of what to tell Charlie when he heard I skipped classes today. This naturally led my mind back the why I had left school, and my irritation grew again as I heard her words ringing in my head. Forget I told you this. In Edythe's velvety voice. Then a point I hadn't focused on before came to the forefront. The dismissal in her eyes when she finished speaking, not waiting for, or even expecting a reply to her words, threatened to enrage me yet again. This thought startled me a bit. I knew her words made me mad, but that didn't warrant me taking her words to heart. I could have told her to shove it and go on with my day. But looking back, all I could see was the insult on every level, and the impact I allowed it to have on me. Why did this bother me so? I had dealt with many spoiled princess types in my last school who thought I should worship them because of who their daddy was. Or because every other boy treated them that way. But I had never let it get to me before. What was different this time? In a deep part of my mind, I came to the realization that I couldn't recall the details of what any of the previous princess girls looked like, but I could recall every detail of what Edythe looked like. Both times I had seen her. I brushed that thought off with the justification that I had more recently seen Edythe than any of those other girls. She would fade with time as well. I just let my mind wander as I picked my way through the forest for the next hour, and then surprisingly, I came across the rock slab I had used yesterday to meditate on. I managed to beat Bella home by about 5 minutes. She seemed distracted when she walked into the kitchen. You okay, sis? She shook her head. Yeah. Just a guy in biology. We talked a lot, but he didn't really say anything. What about you? The coach asked why you didn't go to gym today and told me to try and talk you into joining some sports teams. Again. I smiled at her. Yeah. Sorry, something spiked my temper, so I had to get out of there to cool off. Nothing to worry about, sorry if I troubled you. I am going to run over to the station and tell Charlie about me skipping before he gets a call from the school, and I'll do my workout as well. Okay, I think I'll make enchiladas for dinner. I bet Charlie hasn't had much of that style of food, at least I haven't seen a Mexican restaurant in town. That sounds good. What do you think of the chances he is willing to try sushi? I could really use a good tuna roll. Bella laughed. I tried to get him to go to a sushi restaurant when he came to Phoenix before you moved in. It didn't go well. He thought they were bringing us bait to go catch a fish to be cooked. Haha, that would have been great to see, but I bet he was just being snarky about the food. Okay, I'm going to head out for my workout. I will see you for dinner. Quick question though, what was the guy's name in biology? Bella blushed. You keep your nose out of it. Don't let me catch you asking around at school about it either, or it's salad dinners for a week. I quickly left the kitchen. With all the running I had done today, I decided to just go work out at the station. Once I got there, I saw Charlie was in his office going over some paperwork, so I went and knocked on his door jamb. Hey Charlie, just a heads up, but I ditched classes after lunch. My temper got the best of me after a girl said some stuff. I am not sure why it got to me so much today. I will try harder to keep my cool next time. I did get the call about you ditching class. Don't make a habit of it, kid. Thanks, Uncle Charlie. The rest of the night was calm and mundane. Though I think Charlie has a taste for Mexican cuisine now. Edythe POV. Edythe sat on the couch where Alice had left her and lost herself in thought. Since she had woken from the pain of the transformation into this new life, she had been able to read the minds of those around her. Her brother could do the same, but he had a much wider distance that his mind could reach. Neither were aware of it until Carlyle pointed out that we were answering his thoughts as much as his vocal questions. It was a big adjustment to stop doing this. The other part was the name being spoken in thought, though I had it much easier as Edythe was one of those names that were cramming relatives' names together to arrive at. Luckily, it never became popular, but I felt bad for Edward in that department until his name fell out of use. Our first year was spent mostly apart from people though, until we could control the thirst actively. It didn't bother me that I wasn't as powerful as my brother mentally because I was able to learn to turn it off. For some reason, Edward's ability was always on, and he had to focus to tune people out. But I became the opposite. I had to reach out to hear, like I had an on-off switch. It wasn't until the late 1990s that I learned that I could convince people of things. Carlyle called it compulsion. The first time I had compelled someone was when a boy wouldn't stop asking me out on dates. I looked him in the eyes and told him, "I want you to forget about me." From that day forward he had no recollection of me. His friends just figured that he got tired of asking me out and chose to ignore my existence from then on. But reading his mind, I could tell he really couldn't remember me at all. It made life so easy. All I had to do was make eye contact and tell someone what I wanted them to do. It worked great when people became suspicious of us. I would just tell them to ignore their suspicions. It made us all safer. No human had ever resisted my compulsion before now, even the vampires I had used it on could only shake it off after some time. Jasper had once asked me to compel away his craving for human blood, but that didn't last too long. I suspected that if it was against someone's nature then the compulsion was weak. I couldn't bring myself to try anything too mind-altering on a regular person. Was that it? Was the thought of Thomas interfering in Bella's life so against his nature that he couldn't be compelled? No, that doesn't sound right. We can't read his mind either, and my compulsion must be a mental thing. It was weird. Bella's mind was just silent, as if hidden beyond her or Edward's reach. But Thomas's mind was like it was protected by a flame. It burned anything that got near it. Jasper's emotion control worked on Thomas, but Carlyle said that was more of a chemical control than mind control. It was very difficult to work out the abilities of vampires. It was also assumed that the abilities increased over time. Not that any of this would help me work out what to do about the problem I created today. Esme came down from her office upstairs. "I overheard your conversation with Alice, dear. Can I help in any way?" Edythe looked at her mother of nearly 100 years. "Hi Mom, could you maybe give me some advice?" Chapter 23, Nightmares. Edythe looked at her mother of nearly 100 years. "Hi Mom, could you maybe give me some advice?" "Anything, my baby girl." Esme sat down next to Edythe and embraced her. I don't want to see my brother hurting. I can feel his pain in every thought he has about this girl, and I hate her for it. She makes Edward second guess everything about himself, and many times he hates himself for the way he feels. But I also see that he can't get away from her either. I thought that by talking to her family, then maybe I could make her stop hurting Edward. Esme shook her head. Oh my dear love. Alice is right, you have gotten so used to having everything go your way that you have forgotten what it is like to work through a problem. Most things can't be solved with a simple sentence. Edward has to come to a decision about this girl on his own, none of us can do it for him. Alice has said that in some of her visions, Bella becomes part of our family. Would you take away the happiness that would bring to Edward? Then should I take it out of Edward's hands and just turn her now, so he suffers less? No, that may hurt Edward more than anything. You know what he feels about making someone like us. It should only be a last resort, not used to take away someone's future. This one he will have to work out. I am just excited to see someone that can make him feel so much. He has been alone for so long. Just like you, my dear. Would you want someone to interfere in your matters to that extent? Edythe shook her head. Then what should I do, Mom? Esme reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Edythe's ear. We can only support Edward and be here when he needs us. Now tell me about this Thomas, you have focused on him quite a lot these last few days. Edythe quickly said, he is not my singer, he smells very nice, but I have remembered the way Bella smells to Edward, and it's not that for me and Thomas. She thought for a moment. His eyes are a glorious blue and strangely his hair is white. He has a very chiseled face, with no fat on it at all. He is nearly as big as Emmett, but the way he walks reminds me of Edward. He moves almost slow to the eye, but he is always prepared to move quickly if needed. His balance is always evenly distributed. His clothes are baggy like he wants to hide his physique. But he must work hard at it to reach his size at his age, he just needs someone to pick his clothes for him. He hums to himself under his breath when he works on a math problem that challenges him. As Edythe was lost in her description of Thomas, Esme smiled more and more as Edythe continued, but she quickly hid her smile before it could be seen by her clueless daughter. She tried to straighten her face lest her daughter try and read her mind. As Edythe finished her description of Thomas, Esme grabbed her hand. You will have to explain everything you just told me about how you feel to Edward and accept that this is not about you in any way. Only Edward and this girl can work this out no matter how we feel. Now, I need to go talk to Alice for a bit and take her to look at a meadow for another house built. Emmett and Rosalie will marry again soon, and I want it to be perfect. Edythe didn't say anything to Esme as she started to work out the best way to tell Edward her feelings for him and this girl Bella. Naturally, Alice saw her and her mother running to a meadow with her powers but was confused as to why. Esme managed to wave off any questions Alice would ask until they were far enough that Edythe couldn't read their minds or hear them. Esme took both of Alice's hands and jumped up and down in excitement. I have never seen Edythe so feminine before. Tell me everything about this boy Thomas. You see it too? He doesn't show up in my visions so I can't be sure, but she is so falling head over heels for him. Best of all, she doesn't know anything. Jazz and I are trying very hard to not leak it until she is too far gone to pull back, but it's so hard. Even Jasper can feel it. HOH, I am so happy I don't know how I'm going to keep it to myself. As Esme and Alice were trying to get their excitement out of their system so they could control their thoughts around Edythe in case she tried to read their mind, the rest of the family arrived home. Edythe went directly to Edward and just opened her thoughts for him to read, showing all her doubts and wishes. He was so caught up in looking at the thoughts about himself and Bella that he didn't recognize the sharpness of the memories about Thomas. After a few moments, he reached out and hugged his sister. Mom is right, sis. I must work this out with Bella. My pain is not her fault, she knows nothing about it. I also think you need to set some boundaries on your new powers, something along the lines of only in emergencies and only for the sake of others. Controlling the way people think is a dangerous thing. I will try, Edythe responded. The rest of the day and night were normal for the Cullen family. Carlisle and Edward went to feed so Edward could stand to be around Bella and then worked on their project for clone blood. Alice and Rosalie worked on a fashion brand that was exclusively for Rosalie until after she wore the outfit. Then it was sent to their designers for mass distribution. Emmett was still working on a metal compound he thought would look like glass but be as hard as steel. Jasper was working on his latest book about the Civil War and its effect on westward expansion. Edythe decided to look over some legal paperwork that was from the parent company they had started back in the 40s. The Cullens were silent owners, they allowed proxies to run the company with their supervision. This was much easier now with Edythe's new powers. Combine all this with Alice's future sight power and they were one of the unseen powers of the world. Thomas POV. Thomas was hiding behind a stall in the middle of the hallway. His mother and her boyfriend Johnny were with him. There were screams and loud noises all around them. Johnny grabbed my mother's arm. Nancy, the next time a crowd runs our way we have to run with them, trying to keep them between us and the gunmen. The fear in his voice was evident even to the young Thomas. My mother looked at him. I don't know if Thomas will be able to keep up though. Johnny looked at her. Don't worry my love, I will keep him close to me, I am strong enough to pull him along. If he wasn't so fat, I would just carry him. My mother looked at him in anger. Don't call him fat Johnny, I have told you I don't like it. She reached down and took her high heels off to run better. Sorry love, the situation has me freaking out. Don't worry, I will bring him along. Moments later he looked over and started waving his hand at a group closer to the gunmen than us. Come on, let's make a run for it, they are facing the other way. The group started moving our way and Johnny grabbed my arm painfully. As soon as the group of 20 got close, Johnny shouted go, and started to push my mother in front of him while dragging me behind him. Loud bangs reached Thomas's ears and people started to run faster. Johnny looked behind us, seeing the crowd start to pass him. He finally shook his head. Sorry fat ass, I told you to lose weight. He then let my arm go and tripped me, causing the crowd to stumble over my body and slow down. The kicks and stomps were painful, I felt bones breaking. My ribs burned, and I couldn't catch my breath. Thomas. Wake up. I was pulled from my dream by Bella calling my name. I sat up quickly. I'm okay, Mom, don't leave me. I reached out and grabbed the arm in front of me. Please don't leave me. Bella winced in pain as Thomas grabbed her arm in desperation. Thomas, wake up, it's Bella. It's okay, I'm here. You're okay, you're safe now. It's all a bad dream. She reached out with her free hand to comfort him, wiping the sweat from his forehead and caressing his face. I'm here brother, it's okay. Charlie's door opened and he appeared while trying to tie his robe. Is everything okay? I heard shouting. Chapter 24, Fighting Jasper. I woke from my nightmare to see Bella half sitting on my bed and I could feel her caressing my cheek. Her voice was low and calming, trying to soothe me as I woke up. Over her shoulder, I could see Charlie with a worried expression. Both sets of identical brown eyes were fixed on me in concern as my mind started to clear. My short, panicked breath started to smooth out and I started taking deeper ones. After 10 or so breaths I realized that my forearm was straining, and I looked down to see Bella's arm in my grip. Her hand was nearly blue from lack of blood flow due to my grip cutting off circulation. I quickly let go and watched as her face tried not to show the pain that hit her due to blood rushing back into her hand. I looked down in shame at my weakness. I am so sorry I hurt you, Bella. I know Thomas. It's not your fault. I will be fine. Using the heel of my hand I hit my temple. These damn dreams need to get out of my head. Every word was punctuated with a new blow to my head. Charlie stepped forward and grabbed my hands. Careful kid, don't hurt yourself. You went through an unimaginable ordeal. It is no wonder you have bound up feelings over it. It may very well take the rest of your life to work it out, just never stop working at it. It's okay, I am awake now. I looked at my phone, 2:20 a.m. You guys really should go back to sleep, I think I will draw for a while. I didn't know if they truly wanted to go back to bed or if they just wanted to give me space, but they both left, and Bella closed my door. Before she did though, she whispered a soft "I love you." I spent about an hour drawing random pictures before I felt tired enough to close my eyes. I don't think I ever went fully to sleep again, but just closed my eyes and zoned out until my alarm went off and I got up to start my morning workout. Not really caring what clothes I gathered, I just shoved a few things in my bag and zipped it up, then headed downstairs. To my surprise, I saw Charlie sitting at the table drinking his coffee. Feeling shame burn the back of my neck, "I really am sorry, Charlie, that hasn't happened in a long time. You have to know that I would never hurt Bella intentionally." Charlie looked at me. "Who? Oh, I understand. No, I know you would never intentionally hurt her, Thomas. I guess I just feel a little useless. I am trying to rack my brain on ways to help you. But I keep coming up empty." "You said it right in my room, Charlie, I will have to work my way through it." I started my eggs as we both fell into a companionable silence. After I was done eating, "Well, I better get moving, don't want to keep Jasper waiting. See you at the station." Charlie nods at me as I walk out the door. I walked down the steps of the porch and went to Charlie's cruiser, which was unlocked as usual. This alone shows the difference between Forks and Phoenix. You can't even leave your car unlocked long enough to run into the gas station and back without fear of your car missing in Phoenix. "Well, if and you don't look like the wrong side of right this morning," came the southern drawl of Jasper. "If that's your fancy way of saying that I look like shit, then you have a powerful way of understating things, my friend." I yawned and knuckled my eyes. "I wish this place had a decent gym, I need a heavy bag to hit." Jasper had a thoughtful look on his face. "If you want to skip the run, how about we do a little sparring? I won't stay still like a heavy bag, but you can throw some punches." I don't think I want to take the chance of hurting my only male friend in town, especially if doing so will also hurt my only female friend in town. "Thanks for the offer though." Jasper got a wry smile on his face. "Oh, I don't think that's anything to worry about. Come on, I know a clearing nearby that will be perfect. Getting there should be a warm-up in itself." I followed Jasper as he ran off at a faster speed than normal. He must be excited at the idea of us sparring, he has a lot more spring in his step than normal. I was a little winded by the time we came to a clearing that looked big enough. I noticed that Jasper wasn't even panting from the run. I never realized he had so much stamina before. As my suspicion began to rise, Jasper looked over at me and suddenly, I didn't care. I felt my body settle down and for the first time today my muscles started to relax. I started to stretch my arms out. This must really be what I need if I am able to feel so much better so quickly. Normally after a night like I had, it takes days to feel normal again. I started to look around at the clearing and was happy to see there were no rocks or tree limbs on the ground to cause issues. I kicked at the ground and found it was cold but not frozen solid. It will be a little rougher than landing on a mat but not too bad. Good thing you know to check the ground, you will be spending a lot of time on it. Jasper taunts me. I look up to see him circling me at a distance trying to get a feel for my balance and awareness. Well, like I said, I can't go hurting both of my friends at the same time. I crouched down and put both my legs slightly farther apart than normal, giving myself a solid base to work from. After a few moments of his circling, I grew impatient and started to move towards him on my own. But as soon as I started my charge, he started his, so I drew up short and steadied myself to accept his charge. However, just like me, Jasper pulled back and started to circle me again. This same thing happened 2 more times before I realized that he was doing it on purpose. His speed gave him the ability to react quickly enough to my charge that it looked like we were in sync. This time, when I started my charge, I did so with no intent to stop. With my strength, I just needed to get a hold of him, and it would be over. Jasper just moved to the side out of my reach and tripped me to the ground. "You telegraphed that one with your eyes. You should have kept the surprised look in them when I started forward." I picked myself up off the ground and noticed he was within arm's reach, so I shot a jab at him. He moved his head just enough that my fist was close enough to graze his ear. Nice. You didn't waste the opportunity to strike, but you kept it slow so you could stop it if I didn't react. I didn't say anything, just got into a stance I liked, and proceeded to throw punches when I saw the opportunity. Jasper was true to his word about me not being able to hit him. Mostly he dodged my blows, but occasionally he used his hands to redirect my fists to miss him. I tried keeping my pace slow, so I didn't get winded, but Jasper kept tricking me with fake openings. I was frustrated, but surprisingly I wasn't getting angry. I tried to alternate my pace with a few quick blows, then resting for a bit by just throwing occasional jabs to keep him aware of me. I tried to shorten my jab length to trick his depth perception at a crucial time. After about 15 minutes of this, fatigue started to set in, and my posture got sloppy. Jasper reached out and gave me a shot to the ribs that surprised me completely. Keep those elbows tucked to protect the ribs, don't be afraid to move the body for protection. Don't just use the body to strengthen a punch, learn what part can take damage and keep going and what is debilitating if damaged. To prove his point, Jasper started to strike me with open palms when he had an opening. After another 10 minutes, Jasper stepped back. Okay, let's rest a few minutes, you're starting to sound like a rusty bellows in a bad blacksmith shop. I sat down on a nearby tree that had fallen years ago so I could catch my breath. Once I did, I stared at Jasper. Where did you learn so much about fighting, man? You're only a year or so older than me. He smiled at me with a bit of a scary look in his eyes. It's the miles more than the years, my friend. Besides, this isn't fighting, this is just sport. True fights don't last this long. The movies have people convinced that it is only a good fight if both people are standing and slugging it out with each other. That they can take damage and just shrug it off, then come back later and win it all. It's only recently that people are starting to realize that in a no-hold-barred match, nearly every time the match goes past the first few punches, it goes down to the ground for wrestling and judo. Media and false expectations along with sports, have brought about some damn stupid fighting styles. I smiled at him, this being one of the few times I saw him serious. So, what style do you focus on? Jeet Kune Do, with your speed it should fit nicely. The 1-inch punch. That is a great style, but I subscribe to a different way of thinking. A specific style passed down to a group,